Okay, we should be good to go. I am, for anyone who's just tuning in, you can go ahead and skip about 5 minutes into the future, and that's where the gameplay will begin. In the meantime, we'll be setting up everything, and people will be joining in, so see you in 5 minutes. And for anyone who's in chat, please let me know if the audio or anything needs tweaking, or if you just want to see the pretty lights change color. Let's stick with green for now, because I love cactars, and they are green. Now I want to see a blue cactar. Okie dokie dokie doke. Sounds good. Awesome. Good to have you, Cinrex. I'm glad that everything's sounding good. How's your day going? My brain is blanking. Where's New Game Plus? I know that someone's going to see this, and I'm going to get the message like far after I've already found it. I believe where we were at last time is we had just met Merlwib Luthison, and every time I get a chance I will say her name, because the amount of effort I had to put into getting to the point where I knew how to say her name was insignificant. Although, frankly, every time I have to learn a Rogadin name, I have to learn it from scratch, and basically work my way through it in a bit of a process. Good, beyond my laptop safety kicked in. Nice! Good job with your Crypt Lurker pieces. Because I play tank in all of my high-end content, honestly, I got my Crypt Lurker for tanks, and I kind of haven't bothered, except for passively, with the others, because I'm pretty much just going to get, I have most of the Zadnor pieces, which I think are like 530, so they're good enough that they'll be outclassed the second after end launches, and I probably won't end up playing healer or DPS until I hit 90 and finish the story, because I'm probably going to be playing Paladin, and if I'm playing anything else, I'll be playing Dark Knight or Gunbreaker. Oh, okay. I know some people don't, and as someone who loves Nier, I also understand like certain criticisms of how the narrative works for 14, just like because it doesn't mesh perfectly. However, I love everything around the dwarves involved with the Nier raids, but they are combat-wise probably my favorite content in the game. I adore the Nier raids. I tank them, and unless someone else really wants to or fights me for it, I lead tank those because they're so fun. Hey Nusha Z, hey Cal. Yeah, the notification on Discord couldn't have a stream link because the stream was not up at the time. However, I will probably do that in the future. If someone would like to go actually post a link from this for the stream into the general chat or something in our Discord, that would be lovely, because I can't really open up Chrome and stuff, otherwise it tanks my frame rate. Yeah, 520, 530 is more than enough for most of the way through MSQ, so yeah, it hasn't been a huge priority. But doing Eden or Eden Savage or even the Nier raids makes it worth it to get Crypt Lurkers. Okay, we're looking at 3 p.m., so I think we're going to go ahead and start. Last time on Dragon Ball Z, Actually,
Last time on Dragon Ball Z.
sorry, Nusha Z. I totally forgot to specify we were on YouTube. It's a lot easier to have all the content on one channel, so that's why we stream from YouTube. And also, there's just some future growth things that streaming on YouTube allows us to do better. Last time we went from Thanalin to actually go visit and give letters of kind of recommendation and planning and celebration to the two other members of the nation states of Gridania and Limsa Lominsa, who are Kani Senna and Merla Blufusfin. We already gave it to Merla Blufusfin, and she's agreed to celebrate basically the events that happened at Cart now, or not celebrate them, but commemorate them. And now we're off to go to Gridania, I believe, and to go meet Kani Senna. Greetings, sir. This is the counter for passengers traveling to Gridania. A pleasure to serve you again, sir. Are you ready to board the airship to Gridania? Yes. Yes, I am. However, I wish I could just eighth right there, but the story wants me to go this way. Thank you, Cal. One of the next upcoming videos, probably not next week, but one of the soon videos may or may not be presently on the screen, as it were. A small history of floating vehicles. Speaking of, though, we have some other really interesting and fun content coming up that I think you guys will really love. Oh, look at that! That's a great view of Gridania right there. Thick ass fog. Also, would love to know what how your guys' weeks are and your days are going, and what your plans are for 14 for the weekend. I definitely look like a new adventurer, right? Like this is definitely a new adventurer look. When everyone starts out, they have glowing weapons. Ah, you must be the envoy from Ul'dah. Welcome to Gridania, sir. The Elder Seedseer awaits your arrival. That would be Kani Senna. Greetings, good sir. You are the Ul'dah envoy, are you not? I have received instructions to assist you. Pray, make your way into the city proper and identify yourself to the conjurer at Nafka's altar. She will admit you to the Lotus Stand, where the Elder Seedseer awaits. I have something cool I get to show you guys about Nafka's altar. So as you may or may not know, during 1.0, there were stones that showed up all throughout Hydaelyn, that each one had one of the symbols of the 12 upon them. Fun fact, those stones were actually basically created or put there by Louis Sois as a way to get everyone to be kind of praying and thinking about the 12 in order for him to summon his summon the primal of the 12 in order to try and stop Dalamud. Anyways, that's a side tangent. However, there are 12 stones, one for each of the, 12, in 2.0 as well, and you may be able to, you'll see them in the 12's video. I think actually both of them, both the myth, the creation myth and the full 12 video. And some of them are very apparent or cool or just kind of, like stones you see around. They're not, hidden, as it were. But the one that gave me the most trouble, because for some reason, trying to actually find a resource of anyone out there who said, oh yeah, here they are, is not as easy as you might think, because I guess it's just been a long time since 2.0 and there weren't that many people playing around. However, one of my favorites is Nafka's, at Nafka's altar. And it's supposed to be around here. So there doesn't seem to be a stone here. So I wandered around. It's like, oh, here's a little area back here. I bet it's hidden, right? Nope. Nothing there. However, I got very kind of flustered, and I was just standing here, and then I looked up. And there it is, right there. That giant rock. Most of the other stones are much smaller, but for whatever reason, this one's just huge and sitting in the boughs of this tree. Please tell me there will be a lunar whale joke in it. I do not know precisely to which part you're referring to, but once we get out of Gridania, I have a whale of a tale for you, as it were. You are the Uldan envoy. Begging your pardon, sir, but might I inspect your missive, the missive you bear? And then real quick, let me explain Connie Senna's role. So, unlike Limsa, which is a thalaccracy, which is all about ships and pirates and basically has a military leader, Gridania its entire relationship is built on the co-relationship and harmony between humans, or mankind broadly, meaning any of the sentient races, and the spoken races that are allowed within, and the elementals, who are the primordial forest spirits of the Black Shroud. And there's a long history involving Gelmora and a whole bunch of other stuff involved with that. But as the Elder Seedseer, it's her lead responsibility to connect to the elementals and make sure that their will is made manifest, so that they don't get angry at all the people who live in the Black Shroud. The Eternal Bond quest, as in the getting married quest, I don't know that I haven't done that if they are, because I haven't gotten married in game. However, the Eternal Bond quest I think is mostly related to the Temple of the 12. I actually think it might have a different name, but that is in the Black Shroud, and there are stones and stained glass of each of the 12 there. So if it does actually have to do with the Eternal Bonding, let me know, because I haven't actually done that quest. Verily, this seal of the Supreme Commander of the Immortal Flames. Please, come with me. Fun fact.
So you are the Uldan envoy.
This here, right here, actually was one of the Garlean soldiers that I didn't really want to fight for, but was conscripted to fight for Garlemald at the Battle of Cartnau, and Connie Senna saved his life after the battle ended. And that's in her short story from Tales from the Calamity. There are no lunar whale jokes in the teased video coming up. However, I will try to not disappoint you and find a way to make a short that manages to play off of that. No promises, because I have no idea what I'm going to do with that as a joke, but I'll keep it in mind, I promise. Oh, do you? Okay, Nusha, that's really interesting. That's actually kind of fascinating.
On behalf of our fair nation, I bid you welcome. Please. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Connie Senna, Elder Seedseer of Gridania, and leader of the Order of the Twin Adder, our nation's grand company.
The pronunciations shouldn't be fully dismissed in ARR, but it's worth noting that a lot of the pronunciations that went with in ARR are changed in Heavensward and going forward. So if you hear a name one way in ARR, that doesn't necessarily mean that is the correct way to pronounce it. However, a lot of the names you're fine with speaking either way. So, you know. And if anyone's giving you shit, just look, I spent a long time saying Ma'ak instead of just Mach. So, like, I'm not one to talk.
I understand you bear a message from the Flame General.
the story, all the stories for why do they do like voiceovers for 5 freaking seconds in this game? The short story for Connie Senna, and actually really for all the characters for Tales from the Calamity, are really lovely and actually give you a really a better sense for those characters, and actually may clarify some key things, such as what Louis Sua's exact plan was during Cartonau. So I highly recommend reading those short stories if you care to. They are by no means, not just Tales from the Calamity, but all the short stories that have come out, they are by no means necessary. They all just fill in a little bit of characterization or context that I think is really additive, but doesn't... Near all the information within is either conveyed to you in other ways, or only just bolsters. There will never... I will go out on a limb and say there will never be a time when they put out a short story that is mandatory reading. I would bet money. I mean, I might be wrong, but I'd bet money. Oh, hey, Ray Ray. Sorry, I'm terrible at knowing whose username is which in general, but glad to have you here. Thanks so much for the engagement there. And also to anyone watching, please feel free to come check out our Discord. We do all sorts of, have fun times there. And then also we'll run polls for new content, or, potentially might do more sweepstakes on Discord that don't actually end up showing up on YouTube. So, worth checking out. Pray tell me, adventurer. It would seem my counterparts recounted the tale in some detail. This as well. A message from the Admiral? A wolf has been sniffing around her stables, you say? I see. Well, I shall be pleased to provide her with such counsel as I am able. Basically, Merlib is talking to Connie Senna and telling her, hey, Gaius is back and we need to be worried, but she doesn't want everybody to know, and they don't know they can trust you at this point, really. So she's using you as a courier for what amounts to a certain amount of secret knowledge. But first, friend of my friend, I would tell you more of the Garlean threat. For the greater part of its history, Garlemald was not even amongst the most influential nation in Ilsabard, the northern continent. However, its innovations in the field of Magitech some 50 years past helped to raise it from the depths of obscurity. Emboldened by this technology, it set about subjugating its neighbors, swiftly absorbing each into its ever-expanding territory, and when all of Ilsabard lay within its grasp, it turns its ravenous gaze upon Eorzea. It also turns its gaze upon Othard at roughly the same time. Yet Garlemald's transformation did not come about by virtue of Magitech alone. Its success owed much to the consummate leadership of its first and reigning emperor, Solus Zulus Galvus. If you haven't gotten to Shadowbringers yet, it's worth remembering that name. It may or may not be incredibly important. The man who built an empire in his own lifetime. Yet he has lived long, and after more than 80 winters, it is said that he has grown frail and ever more prone to illness. If rumors are to be believed, the matter of succession has destabilized the imperial court. This would explain the empire's relative inactivity in recent years, which has granted us much-needed time to rebuild. So, it's important to know that, at this point, Garlemald is not bringing its full might to bear against Eorzea like they're saying, but also that there's a certain amount that even though the 14th Imperial Legion is still present in Eorzea proper, the Castra Meridianum, stuff like that, the Gaius is kind of acting on his own and kind of going off a little bit to be like, okay, we need to deal with primal threat, and I know I can do this, and things are a bit chaotic right now back home. It's also worth noting that they're referring to Eorzea, which includes Garabania, but since Garabania has been annexed by Garlemald, at this point, the 12th Legion, I believe it's the 12th Legion is still stationed there. I don't recall if Xenos has actually moved there actually slightly closer to the events of Stormblood, but I'll double check, but should be that the 12th Legion is currently stationed in Garabania, despite the fact that the 14th Legion and Gaius Van Belsar are the ones who first were responsible for the annexation. Lore videos on all the races are coming. I promise. Just a lot of writing, a lot of editing, and a lot of footage gathering. But we're going to get videos on all of the races in-game at some point, or at the very least, if there's not enough for a race video, there will be a, like, lore bite-sized video. Yet we can't allow ourselves to become complacent, for Garlemald still maintains a presence in Eorzea in the form of the 14th Imperial Legion. Commanding this grace host is Legatus Gaius van Balsar, a man whose ambitions are well known to us. So long as he breathes Eorzean air, none of us may sleep easy. The calamity wreaked such devastation upon the realm. Such devastation. It was not his intent. Upon the realm that it has been all we could do to nurse our wounds, never mind rebuild our defenses. Simply put, we have not the strength to repel the Empire. To add to our woes, the beast tribes continue to summon their primals, whose very existence is a bane upon the land. Each nation is beset with its own primal problem. None has the resources to look beyond its own borders. The Admiral desires my counsel regarding a brazen wolf. She means to tell me that the Empire may soon resume its advance. Though the primal pose an undeniable threat to our survival, the threat posed by Garleans is greater still. Clearly, each nation can no longer afford to think only of that which occurs within its own borders. A storm gathers upon the horizon. If we are to weather it, we must needs stand united once more. A remembrance service may help to rekindle the spirit of unity which brought the people of Eorzea together when last the Empire threatened our liberty. So the important thing to know is that, like, the Eorzean Alliance is kind of defunct by the point in this of 2.0, mostly just because everyone was so wrecked that there wasn't really much of a way to maintain an alliance. Everyone was so focused on their own problems. I think I just missed one of them. She's basically just saying they're going to hold a service for it in Gridania. Your work here is done, my friend. I shall send my reply to the Flame General forthwith. I thank you for coming. May the 12 see you safely home. I can now use the airship regularly. I pray your meeting with the Elder Seedseer went well, my Lord Envoy. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but did you not also deliver a message to Admiral Merlwyb Blufusfin in Limsa Laminsa? Merlwyb Blufusfin in Limsa Laminsa. While you were there, did you happen to meet Baderon, the proprietor of the Drowning Wench? Gregarious gentleman, always happy to help his fellow man. Well, I'm told that he has a task for a capable adventurer. I know not what the task entails, but I dare say the Flame General's personal envoy would make a fine candidate. If you're interested in learning more, pray speak with Baderon at his establishment. Actually, I can just return. It's funny because Uldah's home, but because Limsa's right next to the Aetheryte's right next to the market board, my return point is Limsa. I hope that, yes, I find that it is a great place to nerd out about lore. Sorry I've been a little quiet in general chat lately. Been doing a lot on the back end for content and some future things that are coming up, let's just say. Hey, Leando! Can't tell if that's supposed to be an I or no. I'm going to say Leando, correct me if I'm wrong. I am so glad I am here for the lore, and I'm here to give you the lore, so you come to the right place. Okay. So my plan is to probably skip trials, just so everyone knows, to probably try and skip trials and maybe go watch the cutscenes for them and done dungeons, because that will save us a lot of time. And also, it's except for Shadowbringers, where we can go through the explore mode on the regular dungeons, I don't want to go in with a group that I'm going to be slowing down as I try to talk about things. And if I go in, try to talk about things, and don't slow down, there's not a whole lot of point, because I won't be able to address stuff because I'll have to be playing. Because I don't like holding other people back at all. Welcome to the Drowning Wench. Sit wherever you like, mate. I'll be with you in a... Eh? Bateron? Alright, who's asking? I've got a job for a capable adventurer, you say. Well, you're bloody right. Just so you're fairly warned, though, I ain't no job for the faint of heart. Things are liable to get downright bleed and airy. But if you think you're still interested, let me know and I'll fill you in on the details. Oh, I'm so glad you love the videos. That I really... Still processing the, that people are actually engaging with the things that I make and enjoy them, and that's really deeply, deeply, deeply gratifying, and I'm very thankful for it. So I'm glad that they are helpful or enjoyable or both. Please look forward to the things that we make in the future, and any engagement with the content is always deeply appreciated. Okay. Main scenario cast. Okay, what happened? Hey, Sayrine, what's up? We just went to Lenosia and Gridania, and delivered letters, basically going to celebrate, not so much celebrate, but trying to, like, remember, a remembrance ceremony for Cart now. Is Realm Reborn Part 2, is that where Realm Reborn Part 1 is supposed to end? Let's see. I think that's correct. Cinrix, that's a really, really good point, that I do all the time together footage to just do them unsynced solo. Now, why didn't I think of that? I don't know. So thank you. We'll just do that. I don't remember where certain ones are in the plot, though. So if I miss or run by, like, Sestasha, Hawk Manor, or wherever those are supposed to be in the story, let me know. Some of the dungeons, though, I'm not as well versed in as others. So some of them I may end up saving until next stream or the stream after. And I'll make sure to review all the information that I have on the first few of the dungeons. As of now, the ones I can speak to are Tamtera, Sestasha, and Copperbell. Those are, like, the main ones that I can definitely talk about. Well, and at least for AR and Heavensward stuff, but also by the time End comes out, we'll probably be at the point where I can hit 90, which means I'll probably be able to do Stormblood as well. Or worst case, what we'll do is we'll have some of you join in, and we'll just, unsync it as a group. It will be super easy. Okay. What's Bateron about to tell us to do? I don't think it's Sestasha. Thank you for taking the time to help me out. Now, I'm sure you're busy, so I'm going to come straight to the point. Word is some suspicious-looking bug have been sneaking in and out of Sestasha Seagrot. Oh, okay, it is Sestasha. And I need a trustworthy sort to head up north to Aleport and find out who they are and what they're up to. Don't sound like much, I know. But it weren't so long ago that the Fishback's pet pirates paid us an unwelcome visit, and folks are feeling a bit nervous. If you would permit me, Master Bateron, if you would permit me, Master Bateron. That's someone off screen. Well, if it ain't the chief of the Yellow Jackets himself. The Yellow Jackets are the police force of Limsa. They're basically the brass blades for Limsa, except for they're not mercenaries. They're like a literal police force, whereas the Maelstrom is like the actual military of Limsa. Well, if it ain't the chief Yellowjacket himself, to what do I owe this rare honor? Commodore Raynor, come to me to make sure the patrons are behaving, or just thirsty? Neither. In fact, I was informed that you had requested an adventurer to assist in my investigation, and I came to offer what information I could sift from recent reports. Over the course of the past moon, there have been several sightings of an unfamiliar vessel off the coast of Aleport in the vicinity of the Isles of Umbra. This information came to my attention no more than a few weeks after a squad of my own soldiers had completed a routine patrol of the region, the Sastasha Seagrot included. Their search revealed little, save the family of Curls had taken up residence in the caves, nothing to concern us. In short, in light of recent developments, however, it would seem wise to search Sastasha again. But with Sahagan testing our defenses daily, I am loath to assign the task to the limited forces at my disposal. Our line is stretched as thin as it is. Thus I sought the services of a competent adventurer to conduct an investigation in our stead. Any aid you can offer in this matter would be greatly appreciated. Then it is settled. Sastasha is located in western Lenosia. For most detailed instructions on how to reach the place, I suggest you consult Vimelpa. She can be found at the ferry docks on the lower decks. You heard the man. Good luck. Good luck to you. Good luck to you, lad. Yes, like a tour guide. Exactly, Brotherhood. Oh, Sarian, I'm glad you loved the Chocobo one. I'm glad that we could take recommendations from you all and make them real and really get you excited for something. I mean, I'm sure you guys enjoy, things even if you don't necessarily ask for them, but glad that we can fulfill that. And thanks for sharing with your FC. Okie dokie. Well, I could probably just teleport. So, for those of you, oh no, I have to go down to actually do have to go down to the lower decks. For those of you who have done Tamtera Hard, and the House of the Dead, there may be a certain character that you know about. And a certain crew of characters that you know about. And there is a thing that a lot of people miss, and it may not show it. I hope it shows it. But the first time you actually run into them is not in Tamtera, or outside Tamtera. The first time you run into them is outside Sastasha. But a lot of people miss it because A, it's your first dungeon, and you're not thinking about some random NPCs standing outside of a, dungeon. You're thinking about, oh shit, I'm about to go do my first dungeon. You hear about Commodore Rayner's investigation? Then you'll want to board a ferry bound for Aleport. Once you arrive in western Lenosia, though, you'll pay a visit to the Hall of Novice before you blunder into Sastasha. The Adventurers Guild runs the hall, and the folk there will prepare to train you with the skills you'll need to face the dangers undoubtedly waiting for you in the Seagrot. The hall is on the way to Sastasha, just north of Aleport. Head inside, and once their seasoned adventurers will take you in hand. Best of luck to you, friend. I don't think I can do Passpartum Metal solo either. I haven't tried, though, so I haven't any real reason to. But I'm sure once we hit 90... And again, maybe soloing might be hard, but if I get just one of you guys... even one of you guys doing DPS, but one of you guys on heal, we can clear literally, 70 content, no problem. Oh, so that's where the Adventurers Guild is. I literally have no recollection of ever going there. And I've passed by this building so many times, and yet I've just never, looked at it. I don't know that I can do a good British accent. Ah, you must be the adventurers whom the Yellow Jacket sent word. I hear you are brave. You are to brave the depths of the Sastasha Seagrot. The occupants of those caves are rumored to be numerous, as they are bloodthirsty. No matter what the epic tales would have you believe, strolling into such a den of savagery alone would be the height of foolishness. No, you shall need companions. That's what they think. You shall need the training we have here at the Hall of Novice can provide. I strongly suggest that you study the fundamentals of group combat before continuing on your mission. The smith here oversees the training schedules. Speak with him and you can register for exercise tailored to your particular field of expertise. The smith. When you've mastered our... Okay, we can all agree we know what they're saying? Cool. Off to Let's see what Mount Roulette gives me. Avoid sense. Cool. So, are they here? Yep, they're here. So, for all of you who have done Tempterra Hard, and House of the Dead, it's Avere, Aida, Pio and Leovine? Fuck Elizin names, says Elio Fortunal. But yes, these are the lady who reappears at the end of Tempterra Hard, as it were. A certain gentleman whose helmet and head you might recognize. Maybe missing certain key elements. She actually ends up being one of the bosses. Well, actually, both of these guys ends up being one of the bosses, but her corpse actually is stolen because she dies on... spoilers for ARR, but it's at the attack on the Waking Sands. She's there and actually ends up passing away and being killed by the Garleans, and her corpse is resurrected by a certain someone who, if you've played that dungeon, you know what I'm talking about. Pio is also the boss where he's like, I can't move, someone help me, and you have to basically keep him alive. So the fate of these characters is rather tragic. Ooh, yes, subscriber goals do need to be updated. Thank you, Cinrix. I can't really do that right this second without opening up Chrome and messing around with stuff. However, I will do that for next stream. So thank you for that. I will actually make a note of that. Okay, let us talk to a Yellow Jacket. Please tell me you're here on Yellow Jacket duty, and not some daft sod out for a stroll. I can't take any more of the blasted waiting. You are? Thank the gods. I assume you already know about the ship seen slipping around the Isles of Umbra. We've been on the lookout for pirate activity ever since the vessel was sighted, thinking a crew of cutthroats might have a den nearby. So when we received word that the men of questionable quality had been seen passing in and out of Sastasha here, we weren't entirely surprised. I've yet to see them for myself, but if this lot belongs to those fishback fancying serpent reavers, well, you can imagine the panic it'll cause. The kidnappings are still fresh in people's minds. Anyways, your task is to poke around the caves and find out exactly who we're dealing with. While you do that, I'll keep watch out here, praying you don't spot any blue-face tattoos. Blue-face tattoos are symbolic of the serpent reavers, which are basically pirates who have been tempered who work for the Sahagin. Also, there's some more information about their origins in one of the most, I think the most or the second most recent Tales story. I'm not going to talk about it because it's new enough and there's some key information tied to Shadowbringers enough that I won't speak about it. But it's worth reading if you've played Shadowbringers. Never done that one before. What's the Sasha like, guys? Also, you can talk to them. Let's see what they say. What took you so bloody long, Ada? If me purse was too light, you might have considered using some of your own bleeding coin to get us what we need. You've only ever been as useful as the contents of your pocket. The gods knows why you can barely heal a scratch. We took up the venture in life to take on the big jobs, claim the big rewards. How are we meant to do that if you can't even get our supplies in order? It's him, the one Bateron was talking to. Well, we see who gets the glory. The job should have been ours in the first place. So, there's two important things. One, Avere comes off much more like an asshole in the English version than the Japanese version. Two, Encyclopedia Orza Volume 1 actually does a lot to really kind of clarify Avere and Ada's relationship and the way in which he is actually very loving and considerate, but also kind of really stressed out at this specific moment. It's a little bit sad that like one of the few times you ever get to see them together is like this. Gasp. I'm sorry, Avere. I came as fast as I could. I tried haggling with the merchant, but 2 potions was the best I could get with the money you gave me. I had no idea how expensive they were. This is the perfect for our inaugural outing as a party. Wandering around in the caves, turning over a few rocks. How difficult could this possibly be? I never expected our first visit to the Adventurers Guild would yield such a straightforward way to win fame and fortune. You're so slow. You'd lose a foot race to a tree slug. She just is kind of an asshole. Anyways, on to Sastasha. Also, she has a thing for Avere. However, it's never consummated in really any way. Cool. And... oh, no. That is not what I want to do. I want to do dungeons. Clear Battle of Embers so I don't accidentally end up in Ifrit. So, the entire thing for Avere and Ada's story is very dark. Also, in the non-MSQ, the MSQ can be very, very dark in a lot of places for 14. However, there is a lot of incredibly dark side stories in 14. Lots about sex trafficking, rape, murder, necromancy, like just lots. There's a lot about kidnapping. There's so much about kidnapping. Actually, there's the thing about sex trafficking in Sastasha, which I will point to and show to you later. But it's very easy to miss a lot of it, but it's not hiding it. It's all very much is very there. Okay, there's really not much to say early on other than it's a natural cave formation. It's a natural cave formation. Because of that, it's a really good place to hide out for pirates. I'm not going to bother with the memo. I'll kill it, whatever. You know, I'll hit the buttons and I'll get it. But yeah, there's a lot of like small side stories. Yeah, poor Ada. It's sad because there's other things that make it clear that there actually is more of friendship and kinship between them all, but the fact that there's so little before things go to shit make it very, very tragic. I'm done with you guys following me around. Warrior is also my worst tank, so... I mean, it's not that I'm going to have to play good, but apologies if I look particularly not skillful. I don't even remember all of my designs. Help to press 5 and not 6. But yeah, there's some other, like, even, and there are incredibly dark stories in the early game, like Hawk Manor, Sastasha, like the nature of Sastasha and the, like, fact that a lot of the people there are there because they've been tempered against their will. I mean, even just tempering, like, we know it's bad, but the more you look into it, the more horrifying you realize it is. And the more certain events that take place in Shadowbringers on become really momentous. Let's just say that. They become really momentous. And also some of the dark things that happen in Shadowbringers still linger in my soul. Some of them... Fantastic story with just such high highs and such a profound belief in compassion and hope and optimism. And also very dark. But I will talk more about that when we one day get to Shadowbringers and all my love for the narrative construction of how it brings you into its world early on. So these are Serpent Reavers. These are basically guys who have been, I think in most cases, tempered. Not all of them, but tempered. Or at the very least working for the Sahagin, for coin. That's Captain Madison. He's a sort of mini-boss and he gets got at the end of Sastasha, but it's important because he doesn't die. and ends up being taken back with the Sahagin, and is the boss you fight throughout Sastasha Hard is Captain Madison, except for he's been repeatedly tempered. Because you can be tempered more than once. An entity can temper you over and over again. And the first time, it like has a very strong effect on you, and then it keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and over time, it starts to physically corrupt and change your body and turn you into entities and creatures that are associated with it. So like you can look at this Lalafell who's just like, you must save us. Look at this Makote. Do you have any lines? No. There's a specific Makote that I got to get to that will convey to you how dark Sastasha is. Oh, missed Captain Quarters key. So, room full of people. What shall it be tonight, Cap? You're not the captain. Probably will aggro this guy. I'm not one of them, I swear. It's, swear it on what little of my wait, okay, wait a second. Wait for it to pop up again. I think it... Basically, she says, I'm not one of them, I swear it on what little of my virtue I have left. Jesus Christ. But, so yeah, it's, I have not seen his post on finishing Shadowbringers. However, I have been watching him run through... Sakaguchi is one of the creators and founders for Final Fantasy, and he has, over the past month, like, very short period of, like, past 30 days, completed from ARR to Shadowbringers. The absolute mad lad. So, the fact that he's chosen to spend his time and energy on that, I think says a lot about how successful Yoshi P is, and Natsuko Ishikawa and Koji and all of those guys, and how they have made a great game and they have made a great Final Fantasy. And I think that should tell you a lot on its own. As for his specific thoughts, I'd have to see his post. I haven't seen it yet. I think it's really exciting too. I think. I also know that he plays a Lalafell, which I find hilarious. A lot of the fucking devs play Lalafells, and it's just like, good on you guys. Also, he takes so many screenshots. Yeah, we were just in that room. Or did you mean the other room full of imprisoned girls? Because there are a lot of background narratives that are very dark and telling, and actually do a lot to flesh out that this world is actually a world where good things happen, bad things happen, and things happen. Oh, I have it turned. I have my cutscenes turned off. I should turn those on. Also, if you have already seen cutscenes for a thing, if you go into your settings, go to character configuration, press skip playback on viewed scenario cutscenes. You won't have to skip. You won't have to escape back out of cutscenes that you've seen before. So here we see Madison get got, which makes it seem like he gets killed, but he apparently survives. Okay, guys, you ready? It's gonna be hard. Tough. Almost as hard as Cape Westwind. Ba-da-ba-da. What is the quest require me to do? Okay, no, I can. Yes, I definitely need that like level 15 or level 18 gear. And back to Limsa. Another good example of the dark storylines that it's not even the lyrics to Equilibrium, which is Sophia's theme. Sophia? Oh my god, I'm blanking. Sophia, right? Heaven's Word Trial. Foundation of the Goddess was simply. Yeah, Sophia. So if you want a really interesting story, the lyrics to Sophia's theme both tell the story of her creation, but also the story of a tragic daughter from Mericidia. And if you know anything also about Alligans and Mericidia, it actually is a bit of history, too. Even if it's narrative, it tells you a lot. Oh! So he played 5 point... He played 5.3 dressed up as OG Warrior of Light? Oh, that's... I can't talk about why that's really meaningful and powerful, but if you've played 5.3, or, you know, up to 5.5, you know why dressing up as the Warrior of Light, the original Warrior of Light from Final Fantasy 1, is relevant. Okay, let's go fly a kite and send it soaring. Another great dark story in the background, because apparently I have a bunch of these, is Armvald's life story, and why he has the... I don't know that technically is, but the war paint that he... I was about to say, I don't know that's Alamegan war paint specifically, I've forgotten, but the war paint he has is because he is actually... his mother is Alamegan and was raped by a Garlean who... while they were occupying Alamigo, and so she kind of hates Arnvald, and as a kid, she was terrified that he was getting a third eye, like an Allegan third eye, which you only get if you're a pureblood, really. But she was terrified of it, so she took a knife to his face. And so the war paint actually helps to cover up the scars from that. Which, when you know how great Arnvald is, makes you surprised he turned out so well. Yes, those free... Wait. Let's find out. Let's quick find out. How many Grand Company seals is that? Because I'm going to guess 93. I'm going to guess it's like 93 Grand Company seals for whatever. What? I got... well, here, it'll just pop up. Oh, I can't do a New Game Plus. Oh, well. That's interesting. You played the entire game as Paladin? I swear to God I saw him in Heaven's Word not dressed up as Warrior of Light. But either way, that's awesome. Oh, okay, so he's finished 5.0, but he hasn't gotten to 5.3 in the Paladin app? Well, everything I still said kind of holds why it would be special and important, but that's going to be very exciting. 5.3 is... I'm going to take a second real quick. 5.3 does a lot for me as a person in the kind of narratives I love, and is so powerful for what it is built to and how it ends. And the fact that it is both, and it is an epilogue, a swan song, and a compelling narrative in its own right. And the fact that 5.0 is so wildly successful, and 5.3 is just as successful, if not more so, by building off of 5.0. It is stunning. And the fact that they have consistently had wonderful moments and powerful moments like 3.3, or, just really many moments throughout the entire story tells me that this is not a fluke. We should look at Endwalker and think, we can have our hopes high and we can believe and trust in the developers because they've proven it, I'm not saying it's going to be the world-ending greatest story of all time, because also what kind of story do you want? That's going to be different person to person. But I can say I do genuinely have utter trust and faith that it will be cathartic and powerful. Oh, thanks, Queen. I'm glad you you like the stream. Yeah, the focus is mainly on the lore. It's one of the things I can bring to it. Yeah, stick around if you're enjoying it. Aye, such a task was on the books. Was mind. I'm afraid the ship has already sailed, friend. Aye, might you be the adventurer who accepted the job of investigating Sestasha? Would seem that the ship has not only sailed, but now returns to harbor. None of the worse for its voyage. A pity, we dragged our boots too long on this one. No matter, the wheel will turn and our chance will come. You're right, of course, but there shall be no rest till we have attained our goal, lofty though it may be. Not a wink of sleep, great leader. Wait, that Lalafell didn't have a last name. Our aim, lest you wonder, is to perform such feats of heroism as will earn us a place in the songs of every alehouse in Eorzea. We mean to write a legend which will inspire adventurers as yet unborn to follow our shining example. I believe these guys come back up later at the Rising Stones, but I forget this. I know you fight them, but I forget the context. Do you have such a goal? Large or small, it matters not. Only have a star to reach for, and you will reach higher. That's basically us with the channel. We have goals, and we are trying to achieve them, and we are dreaming and working hard. And thank you all for your time, your engagement, and your subscriptions. And thank you for getting us to 1,000. That's a thing. So here's to a bright future. Purpose can sustain us through times of hardship. Keep your eyes on the prize, and all obstacles will be overcome in time. You would not think to stride into battle unclouded, would you? Well, goals are as arms and armor for the spirit. I wish you fortune in your endeavors, sir. Back then, are you? With all your limbs and a tale to tell, I'll wager? Queen, I'll make you a deal. I'll try to do a bad British accent. I won't try to make it bad, but I will try to do a British accent for Alfino. Is that good enough for you? Fishbacks. And there I was thinking you'd only have to crack a pirate skull or 3. 7 hells. You turned your back for 5 bloody minutes and the scaly bastards set up shop on your bleeding doorstep. Still, it sounds like you left them in pieces, so I don't suppose they'll be carrying out whatever mischief they were planning. Unless they were planning on feeding themselves to the fauna of Sestasha, of course. Any road, all's well that ends well. On behalf of Olimsa, I thank you for shedding some light on this mystery. You lived up to your reputation, and I couldn't ask for no more than that. Now, I'll bet you're dying for a rest, but just in case you're not, I was wondering if you might be interested in taking on another job. It just so appears that I've had a request from the sister guild in Gridania, see? Seems the forest folk in need of venture who can get things done. For them to ask for help like this, you can bet task won't be no skip through a sunny glade. But after the way you dealt with our fishback infestation, I doubt it's anything you can't handle. Give us a shout when you're ready, and I'll lay it out for you. I cry every time too. I'm not a dubs person in terms of like, oh, it should always be dubs. But I really adore the dubs for this game, and I prefer the dubs over the subs in this game. It's always contextual, but like the dub in this game is so fucking good. And just on a side comment on 5.0 real quick, and just this game in general, the other reason I'm certain the end will be great is because the reason Shadowbringers is great is because Shadowbringers, it's as a narrative, is awesome, but is only able to be awesome because it builds off of the back of what came before. As Stormblood builds off the back of Heavensward and ARR, and Heavensward builds off the back of what came in ARR. Like, they take advantage of the narrative they have created beforehand, the lore that they have created beforehand, and the characters that they have created beforehand, and use those to tell powerful, cathartic, meaningful tales and stories. So, I have high faith, high trust, high hopes for Endwalker, but I had insane expectations for Shadowbringers based on what people had told me, and I was in no way let down, and it surpassed those expectations. So I think End will be pretty confident on End. So, okay, brother, here, actually, this is actually probably a great time to do this. Let's explain 1.0 real quick. So, if you haven't watched it, there's a great documentary by NoClip about the creation of Final Fantasy XIV. That's a great place to start. There was a Realm Reborn is referred to also as 2.0 because there was a 1.0 version of the game. And it was a dumpster fire for a lot of complicated and kind of really fascinating reasons. But Yoshi P himself has explicitly on multiple occasions referred to it as a nightmare. Not in Japanese, in English. It is a bit of a time. Its narrative is something that has come up and propped up in sort of the Cart Now stuff that has been touched on in some of our films. However, me and the team were just talking about we plan to and really want to make a 1.0 synopsis because its lore is interesting, but the game is so deeply flawed mechanically and how it's trying to tell its story that it doesn't work. And I say that lovingly, but it doesn't. But we want to create a synopsis at some point that really encapsulates basically that time period. The important thing to know is that basically some stuff with the primals, yada yada yada, some stuff with the Empire, yada yada yada, a little bit like a mini ARR that was like very, very short. And it leads up to the events at Cart Now, which is where the Red Moon Dalamud falls. And that is kind of the main things. And also that Louis Soix was Okay, there's a bunch of little details, all of which are important for understanding the foundation if you care about getting the full depth, but not in terms of understanding the story. The ARR does a really good job of telling you everything you really need to know. It tells you about Louis Soix, it tells you about Gaius, it tells you about everything that you need to know in order to appreciate the game. It is worth noting, though, that Louis Soix is a little bit more of a character in it. I mean, as much as anyone is a character in 1.0. And that's relevant because where we're going right now, we're going to Old Charlan in Endwalker, and we're going to be meeting up with his son and Alphino and Alice's father, Fortunal, which, if you've played 5.55, I think, you know what kind of man Fortunal is. I'll leave it at that. 1.0 was the base game, but also they scrapped the game, created a whole new engine, and they literally... The reason Dalamud falls was so that the calamity could happen, so they could basically reset the game. So it's not a prequel. It is what would be a base game. However, it's not the base game, because the base game is ARR. It's a weird thing that has never happened in MMOs before, and probably won't happen again for a lot of reasons, but just know that if you're worried, everything you need to know is from 1.0 is in A Realm Reborn and told you through A Realm Reborn. And we will be making a synopsis of the events of 1.0 at some point, sooner rather than later. I can't give an exact date, but sooner rather than later. And Hildebrand 1.0. I think we'd have to make a Hildebrand video first. At some point, there are some other priorities before Hildebrand. I appreciate and love Hildebrand, but there's some other priorities first. However, I may do a stream of the Hildebrand quest lines, so maybe you could do something along with that. Yes, it's also worth noting that the Binding Coils of Bahamut, which is the raid for A Realm Reborn, is a perfect wrap-up for A Realm Reborn. It basically, if Cart Now is the opening of A Realm Reborn, you think of the trailer called Answers. The Binding Coils of Bahamut is the bookend on the other end. It is the finale of A Realm Reborn and closes out some of the major key plot points, not all of, but some of the major key plot points from A Realm Reborn, and importantly, most of, if not all, the major key plot points from 1.0. Yes, there are some other threads that are left open that are either result in other content or haven't been, but functionally, Binding Coils wraps up most of the primary mysteries left to us by the event, of Cartnow and the end of 1.0. Yes, 1.0 is also called Legacy. Brotherhood, if you have any other questions about it, feel free to ask them. I'm sure either chat would love to help answer, or I'm glad to as well. But that's also why a Realm Reborn is called a Realm Reborn, because the world was not fully destroyed, but basically Armageddon kind of did happen, but didn't happen completely, and so this is 5 years after the event of 1.0. You start a Realm Reborn 5 years after the events of 1.0 as things have started to come back to a sort of normal. And it's the Realm Reborn, which, there's the title. Okay, back to the story. Ready to hear about the job then? Like I said, the request comes from a sister guild in Gridania. And that's all I know. But whatever it is you get asked to do, I somehow doubt it's supposed to pose any trouble for an adventurer as survived the Bedlam in Sestasha. I appreciate that they speak the way they speak, and like kind of Cockney in Limsa and pirate speak. It is a pain in the ass, and even just trying to read some of the stuff in the like Rogue's Quest, in my own head, is hard sometimes. If you think you might be interested, you might want to have a word with Mother Mione. Mione? Me counterpart in Gridania. Good luck, mate. Let's see. Let's just teleport to Gridania. I've got 200 Aetheryte tickets. What do I care? Oh, speaking of... Oh, I need to refresh. I need to pick up on more auctions. Let's not waste my tickets. I need to do more hunts in prep for End so that I can get a crap ton of tickets. I doubt that the guild cost for going to the moon will go above like 2,000. And I think they might have actually already specified this. If someone knows, feel free to say so. But I bet you it's just going to go up to like 2,000. Which is still not that much. I think I have like 11 million gil, which is less than I'd want, but is more than enough to be fine in every way that matters. I mean, this is kind of probably obvious, but one thing that's cool is you can see a lot of the other maps from each map. So in Gridania, if you actually look, that's the central shroud, and you can actually flight right over there. And then you can see this part of Gridania from far away. It's much more telling in somewhere like Upper Lenosia, where you can see the rock of... you can see the stone for Oshan, the Wanderer, in Upper Lenosia, even though it's actually located in Outer Lenosia. God, I love the Gridanian theme. Not a big fan of Gridania, but love the Gridanian theme. Although there's definitely a lot of there's a part that is definitely the Hobbit theme. Take a seat wherever you like, friend. Our waitress will come to take your... Oh, not here to dine? Dare hope that you're the adventurer Baderon sent word about. You are? The matron be praised. Matron is Nafka. That's Nafka's role title. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mione, and the Carlin Canopy is my place. With regards to the task in question, there's a fair bit to tell. Let me know when you're ready to hear the details, and I shall brief you. Ready for the briefing? Good. Now then, here's the long and short of it. Beg pardon for interrupting, Mione, but our needs grow ever more pressing. Have none stepped forward? And good day to you too, Bow Lord. Your needs must be pressing indeed for you to honor us with a visit. The good news is your journey hasn't been wasted. I'm pleased to report that we have a volunteer at last. The one who comes highly recommended at that. Lewin. My thanks for answering the call, friend. My name is Lewin, and I lead the men and women of the God's Quiver. Like the Brass Blades and the Yellow Jackets, the God's Quiver are... They're not so much the police of Gridania as they are the rangers and wardens of Gridania. However, they're a kind of also the functional police force as well. Now, time is of the essence, so I shall not proceed directly to the heart of the matter. We wish for you to nip a potential threat to Gridania in the bud. Beneath the central shroud, there lies an underground burial site called the Tamtara Deepcroft. The place was once a Gelmoran settlement, but we Gridanians have long interred our dead there. Gelmora was a civilization that existed, I think, up until around the 700th year of the Sixth Astral Era, so about hundreds of years ago, but within the Sixth Astral Era. And it was basically peoples came into to Gridania, and the elementals were like, "Oh fuck no!" And so the elementals just like started doing terrible, like just hurling everything of nature at them. And so they were all like, "Nope," and yeeted themselves underground and created a whole civilization underground. That's where Tamtara comes from. That's where the Palace of the Dead comes from. Those are all Gelmoran ruins, and that's where all like the like stone ruins you see in Gridania, or not Gridania, but the Black Shroud come from. At some point, the members, some members of Gelmora made peace with the elementals, and some of those became the first, or some of those, or I think some of their children became the first Pajau. And once that happened, they left Gelmora and came above ground, creating Gridania. So there's a lot of like Gelmoran ruins around, and that's also where the Dusk White Elizin kind of come from. The place was once Gelmoran settlement, but we Gridanians have long interred our dead there. Of late, however, shadowy figures have been skulking about the Deepcroft, and with ever-increasing regularity. Actually, I'll make a note real quick. I try to make a note of anything I don't remember perfectly, so like if I don't remember... I didn't remember Gelmora's timeline, so I'm making a note of that to make sure that I know the years for that better. Which is one of the reasons I'm doing the ARR replay, both to teach you guys and also to do everything I can to concrete more and more knowledge so that I can always trust and have a solid foundation when referencing things. Based on the accounts of various witnesses, we suspect the individuals belong to the Lambs of Dalamud, a doomsday cult which sprang up prior to the calamity. Lambs of Dalamud, followers of Dalamud, Dalamud, the moon that fell. Moon. These zealots have proven themselves dangerous in the past, and we leave them to their own devices at our peril. Ordinarily, I would have dispatched my best men to scour the Deepcroft with orders to flush the cultists out. Alas, the calamity decimated our ranks, and the limited forces at my disposal are consequently required to keep the Ixal at bay. The birdmen have grown restless of late. I fear a storm may be brewing in anticipation of this. I've been compelled to spread our forces throughout the Twelveswood, lest we be taken unawares. The situation so being, we must turn to the others to deal with the Lambs of Dalamud. Can we rely on you to undertake this task, my friend? The funny thing to understand about the Lambs of Dalamud is that they're literally a doomsday cult, that their apocalypse, doomsday came, and none of them died. Like, it wasn't even that it never came. The apocalypse happened, and they were all fine. And they're all really salty about it. And so they're mad at everybody else for, like, stopping Dalamud from actually hitting into Cardinal. Because the calamity should have been much worse. If it wasn't for Louis Soir, the calamity would have been way worse. You have my gratitude. Once you've seen to your preparations, pray make your way into the Deepcroft and identify yourself to the guard posted at the entrance. He will praise you of the latest developments. That is all. Be careful out there, you hear? May the crystal guide you and keep you. And if you've watched... I've made a video on Sastasha. I've also made a video on the Deepcroft, and we'll continue to make videos on every dungeon as we have time. The dungeon videos don't tend to do quite as well, so they aren't of the utmost priority. I don't always... Sometimes I pick videos that aren't of the gonna do super great. Obviously, the race videos do the best, but I do the ones that are most fulfilling and also kind of balance that with the ones that are going to do well. But if you've watched our episode on the Deepcroft, you kind of probably will know a lot of the things I'll say here. The important thing, basically, that the lambs are there and they are summoning Void Scent. Now, when you summon Void Scent, which is a whole topic in and of itself, which we'll also get to at some point, you have to summon them into something. They can't just exist on the corporeal plane in and of themselves, mostly. So, they've been summoning the Void Scent into the corpses of Gelmoran rulers and basically the most desecrating of desecrating some tombs. I'm going to check something real quick. Don't mind me. I know it's super thrilling content, I'm sure, to have someone just looking at their phone. I just wanted to make sure that my thing is updating in real time. So, Brotherhood. So actually, this is a good time to explain. So yeah, nowhere near 5.3. A Realm Reborn is 2.0, Heavensward 3.0, Stormblood 4.0, Shadowbringers 5.0. It's that simple. After every expansion, there's a bridge or an interstitial. Some people kind of refer to them as part of the prior expansion. I just call them bridges or interstitials. So the bridge / interstitial from A Realm Reborn to Heavensward is 2.1 through 2.5, which is the Crystal Brave stuff, Leviathan, Ramu, that sort of thing. Then you have 3.1. Then when you get to Heavensward, it's more 3.1 to 3.3 is kind of a finale or an epilogue to Heavensward, and 3.4 and 3.5 are set up Stormblood and Shadowbringers. Then you get to 4.0, which is kind of 4.1 to 4.3 is kind of a pseudo epilogue to the events of Stormblood, and then 4.4 and 4.5 are setting up for Shadowbringers. Shadowbringers has been much the same, where 5.1 to 5.3 is very kind of like an pseudo epilogue style story to the events of Shadowbringers, and you could also argue that they're epilogues and climaxes, because the expansions have their own climaxes that feel like such, but you'll see what I mean when you get to like 3.3 and 5.3 and 4.3 to a lesser extent, and then 5.5 to 5.55, which is there's the 0.5 patch and then there's a 0.55 patch, which is you can just kind of lump them together. You can't, but you can. It's fine. And so that's the case. However, Endwalker will be the first expansion since A Realm Reborn where there's the story for the expansion will just end at 6.0. Like 6.0 will be the finale of the Heidelin Zodiac arc, and after that, you will be starting from scratch. You won't be starting from scratch, but the story will kind of be starting anew, for lack of a better way of putting it. Oh, hi, Charity. Hooray, I have followers. But so Endwalker is going to be a climactic finale, and it's going to be long too. At last count, it's about 30% longer than Shadowbringers, and potentially 150 or potentially 50% longer. So it's going to be a time. So you were talking about the 6th Astral Era and how they had an underground civilization, I believe. I always picture an event like Noah from Christianity. Basically, almost anything is water. So for the 6th Umbral Calamity, the 6th Umbral Calamity was a calamity of water. So during the 5th Astral Era, at the end of the 5th Astral Era came a calamity of water, the 6th Umbral Calamity. And that time period was during the 5th Astral Era was the time of Mach, Amdapor, and Nim, which we have some content on Nim coming up this next week. You'll like it. I think you guys will really like it. Gelmora was around during the 6th Astral Era, which happens after the events of the Flood. And the Gelmoran civilization came around within, I think, about 400. It would be about 400 years after the Flood. So some time has passed since the Flood. And some of the people who survived that Flood become the Gelmorans. So yes. How bad were the floods? Are you interested? I can show you how bad they are, but you have to let me show you a Stormblood map. If that's okay with you, that is the best way to show it clearly. It's not a story spoiler. It is just a historical lore thing that really, especially how you're perceiving it, is a really good way of showing it off. So let me know. Yes. They said that the Endwalkers was 30% more story, but the script was 1.5 times longer, which is a weird. The metric for that changes drastically depending on how quickly you read. Yeah, ARR does have. Hi, James. Yeah, the ARR has so much Fifth Astral stuff. And to their credit, though, the Alliance raid for Heavensward is the Void Arc saga, which is all deeply, deeply tied to the Fifth Astral era. Okay, cool. Yes, James, go into the peaks. So I'm going to head to the peaks real quick to show Brotherhood exactly what I'm talking about. So we're going to go to Girabania. Girabania is where Alamigo is. So to show off the map real quick, this is Eorzea, this entire landmass. This landmass here is Aldenard, and this landmass here is Vilbrand. You can see Vilbrand, Aldenard. Together they are Eorzea. There's the Thanalan Desert, which has the city-state of Ul'dah. There is Lenosia with Limsa Lominsa, the Black Shroud with Gridania. You have Kurthus with Ishgard, and then you have Girabania with Alamigo. Alamigo at this point is controlled by the Empire. The Empire has controlled it for about 20 years and it was annexed. We're gonna go there, and then we're gonna go to the peaks, which is the. I don't think. Do you go to the peaks before you go east? I think you might go to the first part of the peaks, but I don't think you go to the second part of the peaks. So, in reference to your bit about, you know what, I want a cooler mount. Give me a second. I'm gonna go to my favorite mounts. Where is it? There it is. God, I love Sabotender and Cactars. Why? Well, a couple of really dumb reasons, but mostly I just love them. Don't at me. This is a really somewhat egotistical thing to say. If you were to ever give me a gift, I don't know why any of you would, but if you were ever to give me a gift, anything Cactar themed. I love Cactar so much. It's up, right? So important to note, Girabania is like sort of a mountainous region. So we're already at a high elevation in and of itself up in this land. So like this is a high elevation area. Down there is higher than like Gridania or the Black Shroud by quite a bit. And now we're going even higher. Let's hide dialogue box. I don't think you guys can see. I think my head probably blocks the dialogue box. But, so obviously we're super high up, right? That there is an ark. That was an ark, a ship that was ridden on by a bunch of people during the 6th Umbral Calamity of Water, because the flooding was that bad. The flooding was real bad. There's a bunch of other lore tied to this that not like story, but there's lore about Charlene that's tied to this. There's lore about the survivors of Mach and Amdapor. There's a lot of things. This ship is a really interesting curiosity if you care at all about the 5th Astral area. I recommend you come check it out. You go check it out and read up about it. But yes, the floodwaters were, as far as we know, Noah levels of bad. Utterly cataclysmic. When a Umbral Calamity happens to its fullest, it is a full-on end of days apocalypse. The thing is that the 7th Umbral Calamity was not even half as bad as it should have been. But pretty much every time a calamity happens, it's a near reset for all of civilization, and most people in the world seems to perish. So, with that said, so like, yeah, just to give a sense of how high up we are. Again, down there is much higher up than Gridania is as a place. The other one was closer. Is there a second arc that I don't know about? Well, either way, it's a good example. We don't have a number. Something like that. It wasn't, so other people survived in other ways. This was not like the only arc. This wasn't like the arc. It was an arc. It was a way some people survived that period of time. Others survived it in various ways that are made clear through alliance raids and other things, so I won't necessarily go into it. Oh, the Aphrodite to the south. Oh, duh. Thank you. I don't know why I blanked on that, but we got there eventually. The amount of people who... enough to populate Garabania eventually and to distribute out to other lands. So yeah, I think it's reasonable to say something like a couple hundred to a couple thousand. Probably closer, you would hope to a couple thousand. We don't precisely know, or at the very least, I don't precisely know. I don't believe in broadly we have exact numbers for that. Yeah, Brotherhood, it was... The calamities are bad. They are bad, bad, bad news. You will also get another sense for how destructive they can potentially be at a certain point in the story, a ways off from now. You'll see. Okay, back to Tamtara. Also, sorry for any delay between questions and me answering. Right now, to make sure that there's no drop of frames or anything, I'm running at normal latency, which I believe is something like 20 to 30 seconds. Waiting here the whole time. Party. Okay, I spent like, I think $5 on getting all of these as a pack, and it may be the best $5 I've ever spent in my goddamn life. I've become that person. I usually take things so seriously. And yet... Okay. Off to Sastasha. Yeah. Off to Tamtara. Back to Warrior. You're Lendril Shigi, I take it. Thanks for helping us out, friend. No doubt the Bow Lord has already informed you, but your task is to enter the Deep Croft and purge it of the Lambs of Dalamud. In case you're unfamiliar with them, the cult emerged shortly before the Calamity put an end to the 6th Astral Era. The cult... Oh, that's another thing, Brotherhood. It's important to know that when the 7th Umbral Calamity happened, Dalamud falling, and everything around that, it is now currently still the 7th Umbral Calamity. At the start of A Realm Reborn, it's still the 7th Umbral Calamity, because the Umbral Calamity isn't just this singular event, it's also defined as the time of sort of chaos and discord going on around that event. So it can be a period of time. It can be up to 5 years, 10 years. We don't have a dedicated exact time frame. But that's also why, for spoilers for anyone who hasn't finished ARR, I guess, but at the end of ARR, it is the announcement of we have now the 7th Astral Era, the 7th Astral Era has begun. And so it is now a time of Prosper again. Yes, Lucas. I would love some more on the Evil East regions as well. They're a bit of a mess for a lot of reasons right now, especially with how Zadnor left off. And especially with the amount of things that are not conveyed to us through the Evil East raids. I love 12. I appreciate tactics. I hope that Dalmasca, Rabanastre, and all that stuff gets its due diligence eventually. Up until now, it's been a bit of a quagmire, especially with Auracite and the Lucavi and the difference between Auracite of Lucavi and Ultima, and is that different than the 13th Auracite, and is that different than White Auracite? And if you want a subject that's very like, we don't have enough info, yet we have a lot of info, yet we have no info, yet and we need to, it's very important, we need to know about it, but we don't know enough about it, Auracite. Auracite's a bit of a mess. Sorry about that. Yeah, I lose track of everything. Why do they set the end of ARR as the 7th Astral? So, the argument being that one, you defeat La Habrea, you stop the ultimate weapon, and it is basically the kicking out of Garlean Empire out of Eorzea. Now, not completely, obviously, there's still some there, but it's basically the first time Eorzea has been able to be reunited in recent days, and things are actually looking to seem that they're going to be prosperous, and things are, for lack of a better word, looking up. So it seems to be a momentous occasion, and therefore it seems appropriate to treat it as this is the dawn of the 7th Astral Era. I mean, the Praetorium did, though, like, you have to understand that, like, in terms of the 7th Umbral Era, like, everyone was sitting around hoping the Garleans didn't attack, and if the Garleans did anything, they were fucked. The Praetorium is we have pushed Garlemald back, and we have stopped the ultimate weapon, and we have kind of contended and dealt with the primal threat to an extent, and at least lessened it, and actually have a group of people able to contend with it. So really, the Praetorium does actually mark a really big shift. It also is the first time that we, like, not actually fully defeat an Ascian, but also that we finally are beginning to kind of understand them a little bit, and we're able to push them back. So it marks the defeat of Garlemald in Eorzea proper, for the most part. It marks, you know, the Warrior of Light showing up, right? And we remember that when we show up, the events of ARR, like, proper, probably only take place at most over the course of 6 months, probably closer to, like, a month. So, like, it's a very short period of time. So it's a culmination in a lot of ways. Now, you could also argue it's just narrative, right? You could just look at it and be like, oh, it's because narrative, it's the climax, let's do it now. But I think within the universe and within the world, it does make a lot of sense. Lucas, have you played Shadowbringers? Let's just say that. And if you have, that will answer your question. If not, the Final Days will not be the 8th Umbral Calamity. The Final Days is very distinctly different for a number of reasons. And the Umbral Calamities are tied and are named such and tied to a specific course of actions from certain individuals for specific reasons. So, no, the Final Days is not the 8th Umbral Calamity. The cultists took the Lesser Moon Dalamud for their god, believing that it would deliver them from the devastation. And so they were rather disappointed when Dalamud exploded into 1,000 flaming pieces before it could complete its descent. Now, having seen their god turn to ash, one would think that the cultists might feel moved to question their faith. On the contrary, it served only to stoke the flames of their fanaticism. No one likes admitting they're wrong. The Lambs of Dalamud are convinced that heretics, that is to say, everyone but them, interfered with the coming of their Lord and Savior, and that it's now their sacred duty to avenge him. Whatever it is they're doing in the Deepcroft, you may be sure that no good will come of it. For the sake of Redania and Eorzea at large, put an end to their madness. That's actually a really good encapsulation of, like, the Lambs of Dalamud and their dumbassery. Yes. I think if you've watched the thing, here's the reason I feel okay saying what I've just said. The specifics are what matter. Broadly understanding and understanding why is way more important than me saying that. Yeah, try to avoid spoilers. I will occasionally, because I think certain things are really tied together, I may talk in very broad strokes about certain things. However, tend to avoid spoilers. I think that in general, the community is very, very, very good at not being good about spoilers. And I think, use your best judgment, right? Like, I'm not gonna hardcore police people, and I'm not gonna be like hard on everyone. But don't be a dick, be reasonable, be excellent to each other. Like, if you do that, you're gonna be fine, I promise. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. Don't much rather have people trying to engage and just using their best judgment. I will be trying to stick as much as possible to only ARR content, though when things are asked that are broadly cosmological or require a little bit of loose contextualization via Heavensward forward content, I will broadly, vaguely gesture to that. So, here we are in Tamtara Deepcroft, a Gelmoran crypt, where a lot of leaders of Gelmora were buried. Most of the people in our world or in Eorzea, because that's sort of true. However, most of the key people who would be around to designate something in Astral or Umbral Era, like the leaders of the Free Companies or the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, are the people who would basically be the ones to explain that a calamity had happened and what was going on are also the people who know things. So a lot of people in the world actually are aware of the events of Shadowbringers. And so the likelihood is that the other thing is the final days is the final days, whereas a calamity is more of a soft reset. So they're very different things too in how they're going to function. And there's a line from a certain mad lad, as it were, that makes it clear that the goal of the final days is a little different. Yes, Dalamud was the moon that contained Bahamut. If you really don't want spoilers, I guess, for Binding Coils, but this is also kind of apparent from Answers and ARR. This is all kind of within ARR. Dalamud was a Allegan fake planetoid that was a prison. Bahamut was a primal within that prison. The specifics of that are touched upon in the Binding Coils of Bahamut. I won't go in too much detail. Yes, in Heaven's Word you will find out more as well. But that is the distinction, that the entity that was trapped within Dalamud was Bahamut. Dalamud itself was the planet. Now, most people didn't know that there was an entity trapped within the moon, and so they were interchangeable. And many people referred to the influence coming from Dalamud as Dalamud, rather than as Bahamut, because they didn't know. Also, no one knew that it was not just a regular moon. So there's that as well. So that's why there's Void Scent here. That the Lambs of Dalamud are trying to summon Void Scent in order to using the corpses of Gelmoran peoples. Mostly, I think, just to cause rampant bloodshed and kill people. They may also just kind of want to bring about. They're basically also kind of toiling to try and bring about a calamity, though they're not fully, I think, aware that they're trying to create a calamity so much as they are just trying to end the world. Diablos, or Diablo, is the Void Scent I think you're referring to. The boss of Lost City of Amdapor, and tied to other things later. I believe is... let me know if that's who you mean, Brotherhood. Also, I forget names all the time, and there's a fuck ton of proper nouns in this game, so never feel bad confusing them, ever. Like, most of my notes are just about checking dates and about making sure that I get names correct. Or remembering names. And I'm sure even after this lore playthrough, there are going to be names I forget. So, I can talk loosely about this. The Mad Lad we don't know a lot about. It's important to understand that he was being kept in check by Emmett Selk or by the three important members of his group, let's say. I'm going to just talk very loosely around it real quick, because I think I think the context, and I think if you don't really know anything about it, but let's just say the context for the Mad Lad is such that there are reasons we don't necessarily know much about him beforehand, and also that omnicidal nihilism is something to be wary of, even if someone is not incredibly powerful. Cynicism and omnicidal nihilism is something to be concerned about. Especially because, as proven throughout this story and other Final Fantasy games, just because you're weak does not mean your machinations don't come to fruition, and doesn't mean your plans can't wreck shit. So I wouldn't look at power org charts as representations of how much you should be concerned about an individual, especially in 14. Yes, I'm definitely not going to say the name. Definitely won't be saying the name or being specific. But to James, to your point, there are multiple people of the group he is a part of that we don't necessarily know about. So it's not actually weird that he came a little bit out of nowhere, because it's important to understand how much other than the 3 main members of that group, the others were kind of in tow. And so with those certain members no longer in the picture, that's why he was able to appear to the forefront for the first time. We don't know. He may have been responsible for a lot of other things going on, as the Ascians are all doing their own things and causing chaos in different ways. On different reflections. So, just because he wasn't center stage does not mean he was not important. Or it doesn't mean he's just coming out of nowhere. I would also say, if you're an omnicidal omnicidal nihilist, and you are able to find someone of extreme power, what does it matter if you're weak? Someone of extreme power who will work with your ideals or with you. What does it matter if you're weak? That's all I'm gonna say on that. End is gonna be real good. Endwalker is going to be very, very good. And there's going to be a lot of crying and sad things and loss and pain and victory and compassion and hope and defeat and sorrow and cynicism. And holy shit, Endwalker is going to be very good. Also, this is a Galmoran king. So this was a king of Galmora that a Void Scent was summoned into. Kill him, or will it summon it? Yeah, no, it's gonna summon the ads. Yes, I would say the other important thing to know is that based on what we know, the weakest member of the group he belongs to is more powerful than any member of the Scions. Other than like the Warrior of Light, probably. Like even the weaker ones are. And usually when they're defeated, it's because of hubris. In pretty much every case that they've been truly defeated. Yes. Yes, Lucas. So it will be a Final Fantasy game. Precisely. Yep, I cannot wait for Endwalker either. However, I also can wait because I have to produce content for you guys, and that takes up most, if not all, of my waking hours. So I haven't actually been able to finish all my Endwalker prep. I actually still have quite a few classes that are not maxed out, because that was not a priority until like a couple months, like 2 months ago. And then 2 or 3 months ago, except for the Origin Archives had started at that point, and I have not had time to work on it. So I'm probably also going to do other streams, maybe other streams on our Plus channel to justify getting more content, watch time out, so we can, potentially monetize, and then also letting us let me play and do Boja and Zadnor. However, I also know some of you guys aren't through ARR though, so I don't want to spoil anything. I wonder if as long as I don't do Dalriata or Castrum, if that'll be okay. I'll think about that. Final Fantasy game for all Final Fantasy game. Very, very true. Also, my favorite single player Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy X. And so, in case anyone hasn't looked up certain endings, the concept art of one of the trials that they showed us has me very excited. Also, Blitzball, Golden Saucer. Please, please, please put the Blitzball in the Golden Saucer. I know there are a lot of people who will hate me for this, but there are many of you who will love me for it, because Blitzball should be in the Golden Saucer, and I will spend far too much time doing it. Okie doke. Back to Gridania. I've actually had surprisingly few notes for this episode. mean, I guess I've been doing a lot of talking, so I haven't actually got through that much of the story. I also made a video on Sestash and Tamtera, so it's not like there's a lot to take on that. So Voidhead Scent have the same ability as primals to alter thralls, creatures. They can alter their hosts. They don't. They can't temper. And they can. This is a bit of an alliance raid for Heavensward thing, but their blood can corrupt. So, loosely in some specific ways, Void Scent can corrupt things, but not like primals. They're very, very different things. And I can't go really more into like what exactly they are without. It's not quite Shadowbringers spoilers, but it's like there's story related to Heavensward, stuff around Heavensward, and Heavensward patch content and Shadowbringers patch content, a lot of stuff like that can kind of give more information to that I think you're better off playing first. And if you ever had any questions, feel free to ask a question in the Discord. And if if anyone has any questions like these, Brotherhood, please feel free to just like if you have like a 100 questions while you're playing or something, just spam in the Discord. I will get to them, or someone will get to them, and we will have a great time doing it. So never be afraid to ask questions. And if I don't have the answer, I will try to research the answer, and if I can't find the answer, I'll tell you, I don't think we know. Okay, Mother Mione. I'm trying to not say Mione, because that is a YouTube content creator. We should go check out their work and subscribe. Welcome back, Lendriel. I'm reliably informed that your foray into the Deepcroft was a success. Nor did I expect anything less. Betaron's ringing endorsement left me in little doubt as to your capabilities. Even so, you are to be commended. Bowlord Lewin asked me to pass on his thanks. I must say, it's something of a relief to be able to call upon such a capable adventurer. Sadly, death has become an ever more common occurrence within our fraternity of late. Times being what they are, the guild is constantly inundated with petitions, and we are hard-pressed to find enough hands to deal with them all. While this means no shortage of work for able-bodied souls, such as yourself, it also provides ample opportunity for the inexperienced to overreach themselves, with predictable consequences. As if to illustrate the point, she's referring to Avere. Yep. So, as we talked about earlier in this episode, Ada, Avere, and their group went in and charged into the Deepcroft, and Avere died. Avere was also Ada's fiance. So that's important to know in case you ever do Tamtera hard. Which, I don't feel bad saying this, the quest line to do Tamtera hard starts with you receiving a wedding invitation. Avery's gone and it's all your fault. If he had taken you an age to heal him, he would still be alive. Like I said, she's just a dick. But I tried. He bolted out of range before I could finish the spell. He shouldn't have been so hard-pressed in the first place. We should have done more to lighten his burden. They were also childhood friends. Bah, to hell's with you and the pathetic excuse for a party. I'm leaving and it'd be too soon if I never see your face again. Goodbye and good riddance. Fuck them. Fuck them all. Except for Ada. Poor Ada. I'm leaving as well. I doubt this comes as any surprise, but I never liked you. I only suffered you for your healing, but you couldn't even do that one thing right. Cruel though this may sound, you brought this upon yourself. Oh, and by the way, some parting advice, get rid of Avery's head. Bury it, cremate it, do whatever the hells you'd like with it. But for God's sake, stop carrying it around. It's just get rid of it, alright? I'm sure it's not important that she's happening to carry around his head. Wait, don't leave me alone, please. I'm sorry, Avere. Please forgive me. Scenes like this have become all too common. That makes a dozen times in half as many days. Just for a production thing, I feel like this is a great example. They continued to play, like, the Gridanian theme throughout that, instead of, like, maybe the Sorrows theme or something. They really did have more time to just, like, increase production and to make the camera work so much better as they went on. And the reason it's, it's little things like that that they didn't have the time to do. Because they functionally made an MMO from scratch in 2 years. Like I said, I think I said to Brotherhood earlier, if you haven't, you should definitely check out No Clip's documentary on Final Fantasy XIV. It will do so much to make you appreciate the dev team and understand what they went through. Scenes like this have become all too common. That makes a dozen times in half as many days. Now you see why I'm grateful for adventurers of your experience. I can send men like you on a mission without worrying that you might not return. Well, not so much at any rate. Speaking of missions, I would entrust you with another. About a bell ago, I received a message from my counterpart in Ul'dah. She seeks the service of a reliable adventurer, and you are nothing if not reliable. If you think you might be interested in this task, say the word and I'll be glad to share with you the details. Let's check chat real quick. The Nier raids, other than the dwarves and the Nier raids, are a follow-up more to Nier and Drakengard than they are to Final Fantasy XIV. Which, and all the dwarf stuff feels Final Fantasy XIV and I really like and I think is actually really good. Most of the Nier's stuff, though, is much more, feels like a follow-up and a celebration of Nier, which I really love Nier, so I don't mind, but I understand why some people are put off by it. And I also kind of understand some accusations of the writing, because I don't actually think it's so much the writing, and for some people it is the writing, but it's more the story structure than the writing. Which is such that if you don't know the imagery and context it's calling upon, it's going to seem even weirder than it is. That said, the music is excellent. The combat, oh god, the combat encounters are some of my favorite in the game for the Nier raids. Also doing my best to put in what I know as a role player for the game. Thank you. Is there a better combo than Final Fantasy XIV and a character's wife husband getting killed? Final Fantasy game and a person with daddy issues. Okay. So you're not adverse to taking a little trip. Wonderful. As I mentioned earlier, the request comes to us from the Adventurers Guild in Ul'dah. Once you arrive, seek out Momodi, the proprietress of the Quicksand. Think of her as the Sultanate's version of myself. Chances are she'll send you into the midst of danger, but I have every confidence that you'll pull through unscathed. Now off you go, Lendriel, and good luck. This is another example of like a little bit of like fine-tuning, because in later stuff, this game would take account of the fact that like you had already seen Momodi, right? And she'd be like, oh, you should visit Momodi. Oh, you know who that is. So like if you do, I forget which quest it is, but if you do some of the crafting quests and then you talk to someone else for a job quest and you've already met a certain person between quests for other quests, it recognizes that you already know them, or like you have a little bit of different dialogue. So it's stuff like that got more and more as the game goes on. There should be, in every video description, there should be a link to the Discord. If not, Cal or Sinrex or anyone who's in the Discord, could you please post the link in the YouTube chat? And yeah, poor Ada, indeed, Lucas. Love the dwarf and the bosses. The dwarves are great. They are my favorite. I love the dwarves so much. I also make props and cosplay and stuff, so like crafting and stuff, and the Beast Tribe quest for that is lovely, and I just love their humor and like joviality. Volley ho. And the boss designs are all great, even as like basically kind of most of them are taken directly from Automata, original Nier, and Drakengard. And the music is just so good. And as a pretty decent tank, I think I said this earlier in the stream, but I adore lead tanking and just generally tanking those alliance raids. They're a bucket of fun. You kind of want to be good at them if you're going to tank them, not if you're going to main tank them, because you can really, not because no one's ever given me shit, but and I don't think I've never really deserved to get shit for them, but if you mess up badly, it can really frick over other people in the Nier raids, though that's really true in all of the Alliance raids. With that said, if you like tanking, you should definitely tank them. They're a lot of fun. It's true. Everything is better than 1.0. 1.0 is a nightmare. And I don't even mean this to be critical of ARR. For me, I love to celebrate it. And for me, part of celebrating Heavensward, Shadowbringer, Stormblood, and A Realm Reborn is by appreciating how far they've been able to come with time and resources and just improving their craft. So to me, I'm not like, oh, AR doesn't have this. It's, well, okay, whatever. It's oh, look at all the ways in which they've improved the minutia of emotional storytelling, of camera, of story beats, of, you know, and they've upgraded their tech, you know. By looking at the places that they've improved from A Realm Reborn, I do not mean to detract from A Realm Reborn, but only to laud how far they've come. Oh, good, Brotherhood. I'm glad you found it. Welcome to the quicksand, friend. I'm a tad busy right now. If you wouldn't mind showing yourself to... Boom. Boom. They got me. They covered me. Check it out. Contextual awareness, baby. Oh, it's you, Lendriel. And there I was spouting the same tired line. Mione sent a word that you'd be reporting for duty. She also made a point of calling you the adventurer of the moment. That ain't no small praise coming from her. But you didn't come all the way here to listen to me prattle. Doubtless you're eager to get started, so let's talk business, shall we? First trip to Sastasha. To be honest, I don't. I'm going to let you guys on a little dirty secret. When I first played Final Fantasy XIV, I was dealing with so much social anxiety, generalized anxiety and depression, and existential dread that I skipped through most dialogue in A Realm Reborn, which is hysterical, seeing where I'm at now. But I just, because I wanted to get where my friends were at, and I was having a lot of difficulties and problems, and like the story wasn't gripping me at the time. And so I passed through it. It was about starting with 2.1 that I like really like hardcore was able to get into the story. And that, I don't feel shame over that. I just feel like a recognition of that I was suffering and dealing with something and trying to get through that. But it also makes me really happy to do this lore replay through because it's a way to celebrate really how far I've come, but also like all I've learned and to double down. I've replayed a lot of these things since, but not recently. And it's very exciting to share this with all of you guys. So to answer your question though, Kayan Goshin? Kayan Goshin. I mean, I'm assuming if it's Japanese, it's Kayan Goshin. I have no idea what my first Sastasha run was like. I could not tell you. Actually, I do. I was playing Marauder. I think I must have been not. I think I was playing Marauder, and I was before. There was still TP in the game, and there was still. It was before Shadowbringers launch. It was during Stormblood. Yeah, that sounds about right. I remember playing Warrior and there being TP and all that jazz. And for those of you who don't know what TP is, you don't need to know. Let's just say the game has come a long way. It's a lot better mechanically, and there have been a lot of improvements and streamlines. Some people bemoan it a little bit for homogenization. I disagree vehemently, but I respect that opinion. You don't need to know what TP is. It wasn't dumb. There were interesting things around it, but I think it was dumb. I like the game much, much more. How it is now, and the fact that Endwalker's combat has been designated as basically just a refinement of Shadowbringers, for me is perfect. Basically, I created a wish list, and I got, I think, 90% of my wish list for changes and improvements and adds for Endwalker, changes to combat roles. And the 10% I didn't get, I was given a reason for why I didn't get it that I agreed with and was okay with. Okay. Modi is waiting for a brief... They're going to send me to Copperbell. The petitioner ought to be arriving any moment now. God's almighty, another second under the sun, and I would have been set afire. A tankard of ale, if you would be so kind. It's Papashan Nonoshan. Excellent timing, Papashan. Just so happens the adventurers who will be handling your petition is here. Oh, fun thing that I think a viewer pointed out to me. If you look at Dunesfolk, I don't remember about Plainsfolk, but at least for Dunesfolk, if you look at their ears, male ears are dark at the tips, and female ears are not. Why, if it isn't my good friend Lendriel, it does my spirit well to know that you are the one who will be helping us. See, Papashan remembered that they knew me, so they totally are doing this even as far back as ARR. Let me check the chat real quick. Totally missed the side story in Sastasha the first time I was there. Yep, there's tons of stuff. There's so much stuff going on, even in ARR. It's so easy to miss it all. Sastasha looks beautiful, and the game only gets more and more beautiful as it goes. With me, I was played 1 to 2 months a year, so I forget a lot too. Yeah, look, I play near every day, and I've played near every day for like a while now, and even I forget tons of stuff. It's my job to make lore content, and I forget stuff. So I totally feel you, Lucas. Been playing since beta in 2013. Nice. I remember when it came out, and when A Realm Reborn came out, and someone told me loosely about Realm Reborn, and basically my wrong understanding, was basically that an evil god had ended the world and restarted it in his own image. They had been very vague. And I thought that was a really cool idea, especially for an MMO. Now, that may not have been what we got, but we got something else that very different to that is, I think, just as interesting or more interesting. However, I've never lost the idea of a story where the story begins having the bad guy have already have won and restarted the world, which I think other media I'm sure has done before, but it's a captivating idea. Hawk's Manor story is very creepy, and it is very much basically Elizabeth Balthury's. I forget exactly what her last name is, except for in Void Sent form. Look up the historical figure Elizabeth Balthury. I'm sure one of you knows and is going to correct me, so thank you. Glory days. The 2.3 memories is buried under military memories, so I don't remember first Sastasha. Yeah. Tough times will do that to you. Make it real hard to store memory long term. Been around since 1.0. The multiple tempering. Yes, the multiple tempering is a bad time. And you can see it in Sastasha Hard being tempered multiple times, as well as trying to think of non-spoiler examples. Let's just go with Sastasha Hard. If you look at Captain Madison and like how he's got like a whole squid head and looks like Davy Jones, that's because he was tempered multiple times. There are other examples of this throughout the story as well. Is this a return character? This is a leveled up character. I'm just doing New Game Plus. Oh, thank you. It's so nice to have my chat take care of stuff for me. Mayhap you'd like to appraise Lendriel of his mission. Yes, of course. The petition in question was submitted by an acquaintance of mine at the Amagina and Sons Mineral Concern. It relates to an unfortunate development at Copperbell Mines. Speaking of really dark stories that you may have missed, Copperbell Mines. A very different kind of dark, but we'll get there. Bathory. Thank you, Nusha. Or Ray. Please, if you guys go by different names on Discord or other thing, let me know what name you'd like me to refer to you as, and I will do my best to either make a note or remember. To be plain, giants have seized control of the place. That is a very bad misrepresentation of what's going on. These giants are a clan known as the Hecatonchires. I spent a solid hour figuring out how to say Hecatonchires and literally talked to either Niniri or Isildoral about who got me in contact with a Grecian friend of theirs who could explain how to say Hecatonchires. But that is how you say that word. Hecatonchires. Fearsome creatures who were sealed away within the deepest depths of the mines during the bygone Thorn dynasty. Alas, it seems they have managed to break through. I need to make a note. I am stopping and starting all over the place. I need to look up where in time. I totally have forgotten where the Thorn dynasty. I have a loose sense of where it was. I think it was about 200 years ago, but I don't remember exactly when it was. Yoshi-P is love. Yoshi-P is life. I have made multiple emojis of his smiling, thumbs-upping, and laughing face for the Discord. So if you want to see a lot of Yoshi-P face, check out our Discord. Yes, you can rewatch the cutscenes in the in-room using the journal there, but you can't see cutscenes like this. You're very limited, especially in ARR, and what you can see. And I know because I've rewatched pretty much every cutscene multiple times, especially for gathering footage. Alas, it seems that they have managed to break through the layer of rock which served to imprison them, and now prowl the tunnels where their miners ply their trade. The creatures are justifiably angry about their treatment at the hands of our ancestors, and their presence has forced the suspension of all mining activities on the site. It's no wonder they're angry. Didn't the Thorn Dynasty come to an end over 300 years ago? 300, not 200. You know your history well, milady. The people of that age used Hecatonchires to work their mines. By way of enchanted helms, they were able to bind the ferocious creatures to their will, But as is oft the way in such tales, these enchantments eventually failed, and the slaves rose up against their masters. At least they're... Okay, good. They're actually telling the history. But yes, they enslaved people. Yes, monsters, but they enslaved creatures that could speak and were sentient with mind-controlling helmets. And then the helmets started to stop working, so they revolted. And instead of dealing with that, the Thorn Dynasty said, fuck it, blew up the entrance and trapped them underground. So no one went into that mine for 300 years. Then recently, the basically main mining company for Ul'dah, Amagina and Sons, reopened it, not knowing the full history. Turns out all the people, all the creatures that they trapped in there are still alive, and they're a little bit mad. Yeah, I'm not surprised. And the sad thing is you're being sent in to deal with that, which means you're being sent into they have been wronged, and you're being sent in to go kill them. Now, you can argue that seeing as they're basically amounting to a war force that's about to be unleashed on Thanolin, and on Western Thanolin, and like kill a bunch of people, this is kind of a preemptive strike, and understandably so. But also it's fucked. See you, Kayan. Glad to have you around. Sounds good, Ray Ray. I'll try to remember. Cool. Back to the nightmare that is Copperbell. The people of the age used Hecaton Kyries to work their mines. Eventually, slave rose up. In a desperate bid to contain the unbridled fury of the Hecaton Kyries, our ancestors induced the collapse of the mine's lowermost levels. So it was the great giant revolt was ended, buried beneath 100,000 tons of rock. Well, now that's got me thinking. I seem to recall there being an article about Copperbell in the Mithril Eye a fortnight or so ago. Thanks, Kayan. You too. It's sad the mines were being reopened so as to meet the rise in demand for building materials. Like as not, our boys dug a bit too deep and freed the giants. Gods, to think the poor creatures are still alive and kicking after 3 centuries. That's a long time to nurse a grudge. They must be seething. Indeed, and that makes them a danger to us all. There will be no mining at Copperbell so long as they remain. For the sake of both peace and prosperity, they must be subdued. This is the task with which we would have you undertake. Okay. Come on, Papa Shan. You're better than that. Like, okay, I get it. They need to be stopped for safety. That's fine. But they need to be stopped so we can go and actually continue mining. It's fucked. And like I said this in previous episodes, but Ul'dah is constantly battling for its soul. And all of the city-states are battling for their souls and battling in different ways. Ul'dah's is the most worn on its sleeve, and especially because of 2.5 is the most it's often the one people are most aware of. And also it's the most overt in greed versus compassion. I'll not deny that the mission will be rife with danger, but our need is great, and so I beg you, put an end to this sorry business. Gods bless you. I feared you might have reservations, but I assured you it was for the best. In case you don't know, Coppermill mines are in Western Thanolin. Do take care, you hear? One last thing before you depart. An employee of Amagina and Sons is presently at the quicksand. The fellow's name is Painted Mesa, and he knows Coppermill mines well. It may behoove you to seek his counsel. He literally right behind me. Jesus Christ. Looking for Painted Mesa? You found him. So you're the adventurer who volunteered to deal with the mess down in Copperbell, are you? You've got guts, mate. I just hope you've got skills to go with him, because things ain't pretty down there. The Hecaton Kyries left the place in a right state, and nary a week after mining resumed. I don't know if you know this, but Copperbell was old when the second Ul dynasty was still young, and it was abandoned centuries ago. If it hadn't been for the shortage of materials needed for the rebuilding effort, the concern would never have thought to reopen. Yes, Copperbell Hard also touches on this. And some of the things I've said. We know full well about the giants beforehand, but the project went ahead anyway. I mean, nothing could possibly survive being buried under mountains worth of rock for 3 centuries, right? Wrong! Our miners dug up more than they bargained for. One swing of the pickaxe too many, and they found themselves in the company of giants. Unless we can subdue them, the nation's glorious recovery will grind to a halt for want of aught to rebuild with. I do appreciate that they are conveying context and like deeper reasons. Like, it's not just like, we want riches. It's like We got fucked after the calamity. We need resources to rebuild. The stone torches keep and watch over the entrance in case the giants fancy some sunlight and fresh air. One of them will be able to show you the way in, and hope of the nations resting on you. And the hope of the nations resting on you, friend. Best of luck. I forget. Sin, or anyone who can comment on this, are the torches just the mercenary force for Amagina and Sons, or is it just for the mining guild in general? I believe that the torches are basically just Amagina and Sons brass blades. Although there's members of the of Amagina and Sons on the syndicate, so could they also have brass blades? I don't know. But needless to say, you usually find the torches guarding anything to do with the miners of Ul'dah, who are usually employed by Amagina and Sons. Okay, I'm going to check something real quick. What's the problem with Gridania? Well, okay, so Gridania's problem is a couple things. One of which is... Sorry, I check my phone every so often the chat freezes a little bit. A couple things. One of which is that if you play, the Archer's Quest and stuff, Gridania is very xenophobic. It's, very xenophobic for a lot of people. They don't, they're really shitty to certain Elysian groups, they're really shitty to certain Makote groups, they're really shitty to anyone who doesn't belong. The other thing is that they, by being xenophobic in that way, also, their relationship with the elementals means that they can be put at odds and do things that aren't great for people, and in lieu of focusing on nature and balance. Now, that's not usually the case. More often than not, it's the xenophobia that's the really big issue. And if you want the best examples of that, you can find them in a couple places. I think the Archer's Quest is probably the easiest example to find. You just keep showing up before I'm here. Although I get the feeling you've probably been waiting a while, haven't you? Okay. Stone torch. Oh, why am I skipping? Whoops. Well, he said something about something, and something Copperbell Mines. Let's do it. Okay. Let me just adjust myself in my chair real quick. But yeah, Lucas, Gridania has the problem of extreme xenophobic issues, which means that they're very restricted to outsiders who can be a part of Gridania. With Limsa, if you've played 5.4, they deal a little bit with it, but it's basically its history of piracy and its relationship to that both in the past and the modern age. You also can see all of them being incredibly problematic to the beast tribes, like the Ixal with Gridania. Gridania is not that the Ixal aren't also doing shit to them, but Gridania is really not great about the Ixal. The Amalja, Ul'dah is not great with the Amalja, and then Limsa has a really storied history with the Kobolds and Sahagin. Gridania has a particularly bad relationship with the Ixal. However, of all the groups, I would say the most... This isn't fair or true to say, but I would say the most in the story as brought of Eorzea, the most acrimonious is the relationship between the Sahagin Kobolds and Limsa. I mean, that's not really fair because Ul'dah has a really bad relationship with the Amalja too. Yes, I'm sure there's quite a bit of lag between YouTube and the ISP and everything. I will try... I may run a test stream to mess around with settings to see if I can decrease latency by choosing certain things. Right now, I've been prioritizing stability over, extreme, rapidity of responses, because the worst thing would be like, oh yes, we can all chat immediately, but also I'm dropping every other frame. Yeah, so I agree. So it's tough, Lucas. I also, you're welcome. Always glad to answer questions. Both it's very validating for me because it makes me feel good, to be able to help someone learn, but also it makes me feel like I can rationalize justifying spending as much time as I do learning about all of this. There is a lot about this stuff, is the thing, but it's not always on the forefront of the story because the MSQ is smart and doesn't want to inundate you with so much world building that you're like, fuck, man, I'm not, like, I just can't. Which, because, like, some people already feel that way about around Reborn. So if, like, they focused even harder on it, yeah. That said, I think there's a really big way in which they have been trying to focus a bit on that more, especially in the 5.x patch series. Yes, aside from 5.4, you mainly get it in some MSQ, quite a few side quests, and the Beast Tribes. If you do the Beast Tribe, all the Beast Tribe quests, you will have a much stronger understanding of the relationship between each, especially in ARR, some are better than others. So, not in all cases. In some cases, they're just kind of a little bit more fluffy, but in others, they are very much like, really do inform you a lot about the relationship between Beast Tribe and City State. Yeah, I will probably switch to low latency over normal latency then, in order to make it so that we can interact more. I will either be running that next stream, or I will run a, like, for fun test stream doing some trials or something, and we'll test different settings to see how that goes. Speaking of, important to note that I totally did not grab the fire sands. The future streams are probably after this one going to all be on Eorzean Plus. And the reason for that is that it's not a lot of people, but some people, and I really understand it, don't want to have their subscription fee and stuff cluttered with streaming content. And I prefer to have, Eorzean Archives, the main channel, as like very clean and very much like it's just all the lore videos. So the main reason we've been doing it on here so far is because we've reached 1,000 subscribers, but we haven't reached 1,000 or 4,000 watch hours, which you have to do to monetize on YouTube. Because of that, streams are a really good way to get a lot of watch hours and really help with that. So, but thanks to reaching 1,000 and a lot of other things lately, we have gotten much closer, and so I don't think we need the streams quite as much. So if you have been enjoying the streams, please check them out on the Eorzean Plus, which is our sister channel, other channel, where we put content like streams and content that is maybe theories or lore predictions. I have a really, really bad Endwalker prediction that I made really off the cuff, and some of which I, by a month later, was like, I disagree with myself. But it was fun to make, and it's good to not have your ego knocked down a bit every now and then. So if I'm wrong about everything, it's no big deal. With that said, if you like the streams, make sure to subscribe to Eorzean Plus. Also, episodes 1 and 2, and soon, this episode 3, will be uploaded to there. So it will be something that will be just watchable in its entirety. You won't have to worry about if you miss it. It's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Don't stress it. But thanks for watching. On that note, I guess. Part of the reason I haven't been talking much is because, honestly, what I preempted with Copper Bell is most of the stuff about Copper Bell. I guess there's stuff about Spriggans, but I don't that's a thing I need to do more research on. Actually doing research on the, what is the term I'm looking for? I keep thinking etymological, but that's names. That's not at all that. But basically, the different creatures of the world is not my forte for 14 yet, and so that is a thing I need to sit down and do quite a bit of research on, so I know more about them. What I will say is that Copperbell is the worst early dungeon, not because it's bad aesthetically or anything, but because it's the most time gated. And so if you're doing it for like leveling roulette and stuff, there are certain parts that you just can't get past. Like, you just are slowed down. Like that part I just did now. It's like, you can't speed it up, really. It's just they're going to come or they're not going to come. Copperbell is one of the few dungeons where mobs reset. Yep. There's all sorts of interesting bits. One of the cool things I really like, too, is if you can see outdoors in a dungeon, time does change. So, like in Sestasha, if you look out when you get to the end of the... Whoops. When you get out to the end of the sea grot, if you look out at the waters and you just sit there for a while, you can see the sunset and stuff. It's not just like a static instance of the world. I think I asked this at the beginning, but I don't think. I think we've got some new viewers since then. How is everyone doing today? And what do any of y'all have any fun plans for 14 this weekend? Also, here's another question: if you could have one specialization of like knowledge, if you were like to get an Archon, you know, like put a thesis, you know, at the Charlene School on any subject for Final Fantasy 14, like what would be the one subject you would want to be a total like knowledgeable master about? Okay, and now comes Icar. Actually, I think, can I? Okay, I shouldn't. That's just a huge waste of time. But you can if you're level 80, just kill him. Oh fuck! Nope, wasn't meant to kill him. Just supposed to let him go off. Thought if I hit him once, he'd be okay. Let's just try. Dirty way. Oh, he fucking splits? If you can. Oh, fuck that. Come on. Oh, Copperbell, how I hate you so. Get fucked. Come on. Mine would be, of course, a more taboo nature, being the arcane arts of void sense, black magic, or dark magic. Depending on your view depending on your view of how Dark Knight and Reaper views. Oh, I should have probably been doing. Oh, I don't. Okay, let's pull you guys away. I know I'm playing this just terribly. I'm not even trying a little bit, and I probably should be. I mean, not trying, but at least paying attention. Brotherhood. For me, it would be sociology, biology. Basically, the races. How did they come to exist? How different is it here compared to an Al-Ra? What influence had on fire. So that's actually a really fascinating subject, and also I think a really worthwhile subject of study. You will get some answers to some questions that you have at certain points, or you will get broad. You will get broad possible realizations for certain parts of certain answers or certain questions that you have, Brotherhood. Can't really be more specific than that. Let's just say that, though. But that said, all of that stuff is really fascinating things. And we do have some information on which is where like the race videos come from. And a really worthwhile area of study. It also, I think you may be very excited for Shadowbringers, which gives you a lot in that vein, a lot in that subject matter to do. I mean, the other expansions too, but like, you'll see. I mean, Stormblood too, even just going east. You know, like even just other parts of Hydaelyn. Why am I just doing these one at a time? I can just run through these guys and kill them all. Who cares? I'm just gonna say their name again because I love it. Hecaton Kyries. Hecaton Kyries. Hold up a sec. Slaves no more! Free! Free! Cool. Oh, thanks, Brotherhood. I'm glad you really enjoyed them. I put a lot of effort into them, and sadly, all I can see are the flaws. To the point where I may actually have to do like a remaster version of them someday. Not for a long time, but I'm glad you like them. That Lalafell one has done a lot for us. It's almost at 10,000 views. Actually, wait, okay, maybe there is an interesting thing for Copperbell. Never actually really looked at it. Is this Valadian architecture? Or Sildian architecture? Huh. Or something else altogether. It looks pretty Valadian. Let me look at those symbols though. I'll keep those in mind and make sure to check them back. Or maybe it was one of the other, or the Thorn Dynasty. I'll make sure to check it out against the other architecture. Yeah, Issa. I mean, honestly, it's just trying to absentmindedly answer everything and play at the same time. Oh, you know. Okay, I think we're gonna finish this up. We're gonna call it there for episode 3. I'd actually love to know for you guys, especially you guys who watch more regularly, what sort of length feels good for you guys for the streams, because I want to make sure you guys can catch them and actually be around for them, so you can ask questions if you have them. Also, feel free to comment on the video any questions you have, and I'll try to get back to you. Right now, I'm looking. It seems to be probably between somewhere around 2 hours per episode, but I don't mind going longer. I just need to plan out time accordingly. I can also go shorter, you know, if people want more bite-sized things. So just feel free to let me know on that if you have any feelings either way. Could have just warped to the Aetheryte Plaza. What? Could have just gone to the 8th. I don't know if I'm tired, I'm hungry, or I'm just slipping. Oh well. But yeah. Quicksand. Painted Mesa. Oh, interesting. Ah, the Conqueror of Copperbell returns. Thanks to you, our mining operation can resume, and Ul'dah will have the materials she needs to rebuild. The entire nation's in your debt, friend. I'll share the good tidings with Papashan, and next time I see him, as for you, you'll want to report to Momodi. It'll do the woman well to see you alive and in one piece. Okay. Oh, it's the scene. No! Okay, sounds like we'll be doing around 2 hours then, Ray Ray, because that works for me too, time-wise. Shut your mouth, you thieving little swine. You stole from me. You don't even think to deny it. Please, sir, I didn't steal nothing. I bought this and paid for it with my own coin. What rot? You refugees are all the same. Couldn't afford maggoty mole meat, much less a choice cut of dodo. I wonder if she's supposed to be an Alamegan refugee. So important to know that a bunch of the refugees outside of Ul'dah are Alamegans, who are refugees from Alamigo because it was annexed by the Garlean Empire. I'm going to say it one more time. This time frame and how long works at least on weekdays. Weekends are weird due to working my second job. Okay, yeah, I think we're probably going to be sticking around 2 hours then for lore streams. I'm going to say it one more time. Give back what you stole or I'll make you wish you'd never set foot in this town. By rights, I shouldn't turn you over to the brass blades, you know. Help keep the streets safe for law-abiding citizens. But I'm a responsible man. I'm a reasonable man. If you agree to serve me in whatever capacity I require, the authorities needn't hear of your crimes. Yet another example of how dark, even the MSQ is. But I ain't done nothing wrong. 12's as me witness. All it takes for evil to triumph is a good man to do nothing. It's for goodness to do nothing. Good to do nothing. Please, adventurer, help me, I beg of ye. I swear on me mother's grave I didn't steal nothing. I bought this with my coin I'd saved. I only wanted to treat my children to a decent meal. And who the hells are you? And where you're? And when you're at home, the dog's master. What? I've had enough of this mummer's farce. You lot teach them a lesson. Get fucked! Yeah, I know most of them are Alamegan, but I realized recently it doesn't clarify if all of them are Alamegan, and I could imagine that some of them are actually from the Calamity proper, but I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be. Ah yes, that lovely level 21 gameplay. I ain't getting paid enough for this. Hey, where the hells do you think you're going? Thank you, kind adventurer. Thank you thrice over. Oh, actually, wait, that said something. I should go look at what that fountain says. In Eorzean script. I swear there were more refugees than when I last looked. And you wouldn't be mistaken. But it's been 5 years since the Calamity. Why are they only coming here now? It's simple, really. While a number of hamlets survived the immediate aftermath of the Calamity, many were no longer able to support their communities. Okay, so yes, clearly some of them are not Alamegan. Some of them are just from Thanlin. The residents found their lands had either been rendered barren or cut off from trade routes, and problems like these aren't easily solved. Though they tried to make the best of it, it was only a matter of time before they were forced to abandon their homes and seek a new life in the city. I see. But the Calamity affected the whole realm, didn't it? Is the same thing happening in the other cities? If the talk is true, yes. Though perhaps our situation is more pronounced. Ul'dah has a reputation for being prosperous, so it's natural that refugees would try their luck here first. My heart goes out to them, it truly does, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't apprehensive. I hope their presence doesn't foment lawlessness in the city. Well, if things do take a turn for the worse, we'll always have the immortal flames. I dare say the brass blades would welcome their help. The heroes who fought the Garlean Empire patrolling the streets for riffraff? It may well come to that. Impoverished and desperate as they are, you may be sure that some of the refugees will turn to crime. You know what this place is like. If you've no coin, you've no hope. Yes, Alamigo was annexed before the Calamity, but they're referring to hamlets. The hamlets they're referring to, it was annexed well over 20 years before the Calamity. What my point is, though, is that they're referring to hamlets and such that exist. The way that they're talking about them are clearly locations that existed in Thanalan, not Alamigo, because they would be referring to. They clearly state why are they coming only after the Calamity, and why only recently. And those hamlets and stuff aren't places that really necessarily. I mean, there are some like Aligiri and other places that do exist, but there's little Alamigo and stuff. The way that they're talking about it to me makes it pretty demonstrable that they're that it is Thanalan proper, and the fact that they're saying, "Oh, other places aren't getting it as much as we are because we're getting at most people trying us first," means that they're even potentially referring to people from like the Shroud or like southern Kurthis. Well, I guess southern Kurthis is just the Shroud, but I mean, not really. Kind of geographically it's like this, but it could even be potentially people from even as far away as Lenosia, though probably more likely Thanalan in the Shroud. Yeah, compare the 1.0 and the 2.0 maps. The world got fucked up. What will become of our city? Not all refugees are bad, mind you. Some are able to find employment and lead honest lives. Dodo tenderloins. Get your Dodo tenderloins. Guaranteed cheapest in Thanalan. Thank you for your custom. Thank you for your custom? Customers? Custom, madam. Please come again. Looking around, you think that Ul'dah was well on its way to recovery. But peer through the veil of prosperity and you'll see no end to the misery and suffering. It's important to know that this is not an Ul'dah specific thing. That this is, at this time, this is also partially an Umbral Calamity thing of like, everyone's not doing great. Ul'dah is very pronounced, but it's not just Ul'dah. Ah, the echo. The perfect weapon of exposition. Hey, sir? Are you all right? Interestingly, we didn't faint that time. What now? You mean to threaten a defenseless citizen? What? Sar by the meat, you say? That's absurd. Aye, as did I. Leave the poor woman alone, you damned vulture. Who said that? Grr, I will overlook this, but just this once. God bless ye, adventurer. If you hadn't come along when you did, who knows what the monster might have done. It don't bear thinking about. Awesome, Brotherhood. Thanks for letting me know how you watch, and also thank you for watching that amount and watching the VOD. All's well that ends well. We meet again. Pray, do not mistake my intent, for it is always honorable, but I have been watching you ever since you departed Ul'dah. You played the part of the envoy to perfection, confident as a man on a diplomatic mission should be, yet unfaltering courteous to your betters, and when your travels led you into the midst of danger, you faced it without so much as a flinch. You, my friend, are quite a marvel, and I confess to being somewhat in awe of you. But lavish my praise Ah, but lavish my praise continues. Most of all, I was struck by your readiness to aid those in need, even when words were all the reward you could expect to receive. Such selflessness is a rare thing in this day and age. All of which leads me to conclude that you are indeed the one who I have been looking for, an adventurer possessed of a very rare set of qualities. To be sure, your rescue of the damsel in distress was more of a happy accident, but rescue her you did, and that is what matters in the end. I feel I should mention at this point that I also harbor a burning interest in a certain talent of yours. I speak of your visions. You have been experiencing visions, have you not? Well, it just so happens that I know a woman who shares your talent, and can help you understand it. She and I belong to the same organization. We should both be delighted beyond words if you would agree to join our cause. Important to note, the Scion, only you and Menphilia have the Echo. It's not every Scion has the Echo. Naturally, there are benefits to being part of such a collective. For one, we should be glad of your to assist you in realizing your potential as an adventurer. You need not give me your answer now. Think upon it, and you'd feel moved to help us. As I pray, you shall speak with Momodi, an ever lovely and youthful mistress of the quicksand. Tell her the Scions of the Seventh Dawn have found their man, and she will tell you where to find us. Okay, I'm going to turn in this quest, and then we're going to go to the West Shroud real quick to give a sense of, like, just how fricked the maps are. Or how the world has been. Okay, Momodi. Seems like that are becoming ever more common. I'm afraid. Don't worry, though. If you work hard, you'll probably be alright. Saying that, if you ever mind yourself in a spot of bother, come and see me. Just don't go pestering me every time you graze your knee, eh? Of course, I do enjoy hearing a tale of gentlemen's woes with the womenfolk from time to time. Hey, Lendriel, sorry to keep you waiting. I was just providing guidance to a fresh-off-the-carriage adventurer. But gods, it's good to see you safe and well. To look at you, no one would ever guess you had been hard at it with the giants in the dark. I never doubted for a moment you'd succeed, of course, and neither did Papa Shan. Which ain't to say that he won't be overjoyed. Oh, before I forget, there's a lass here who wants a word with you. Didn't actually know your name, but hearing her description, I know who she meant right away. Oh, Ada. Thank you for sparing the time. I realize you don't know me, but I've been longing to speak with you for a while now. My name is Ada. I'm an adventurer like you, though I'm not very good at being one, if truth be told. Anyways, I was adventuring with my friends in Gridania when... I'm sorry. When we were in Gridania when the leader of our party was killed. His name was Avere, and he and I were to be wed in the spring. You may not remember him, but to say that he remembered you would be an understatement. He would sing your praises from dawn to dusk. He saw you for what you are, you see, an adventurer's adventurer, and swore that he'd be like you one day. I believe that he would have succeeded, had a fiend not robbed him of the chance. Since that day, I have thought long and hard about giving up adventuring. But when I think of the man you are, of all that you've achieved, I find that I am inspired, just as Avere once was. And so I've decided to start again as an adventurer. I will go back to the village of my birth and begin my training anew. But I wanted to meet you first, to ask you your name. Lendriel Shigi. I shan't forget. Thank you, Lendriel. I pray that we will meet again. Fare you well. Adventuring can be cruel, bleeding business. Time was I don't know why anyone would bother. When they'd first asked me to take charge of the guild here, I didn't want aught to do with you lot. Thought it'd be right pain in the arse looking after y'all. But against my better judgment, I decided to accept the post, and I'm full glad I did. I feel privileged to be part of your lives. And that goes double for yours, Lendriel. Eh? What did you say now? You want to know about the Scions of the Seventh Dawn? They're beginning to move in earnest, then. Listen, Lendriel, the Scions aren't no ordinary folk, and the work that they do ain't no ordinary work. I know full well how capable you are, but even you would think twice about attempting some of the stuff they do. Knowing that if you're still certain you want to get involved, I'll tell you where you can go. Okay. That's what we're calling the story. So I'm going to go quick to Gridania just to give people a sense of... Let's go to the North Shroud. That's where I feel like my favorite... So I know the spot you're talking about, Issa. I'm going to go to the North Shroud just because I want to show people the devastation of Dalamud as well. So thank you all for watching so much and for constantly engaging. And one thing worth noting is, shameless plug, but we're going to be starting our Patreon within the next week. So there will be rewards and goodies involved with that. And we would really, really appreciate if you helped fund us and make it so that this becomes financially sustainable. And then we can devote ourselves, or at least I will be able to devote myself full time. And Niniri and Isadora will, as much as they can, and, maybe someday, maybe them as well. I don't want to speak for them. That said, joining our Discord, engaging with our comments, watching our stuff, sharing with your friends, all the usual YouTuber yada, yada, yada. But it really does mean a lot when you do it. So thank you in advance. And even if you don't, thank you for being here at all. So a good example of like how fricked things got is that basically over there is the West Shroud, all this stuff. And that's pieces of Dalamud, the moon that fell. And it fricked things up so much that rocks are floating, giant crystals are everywhere. It's just it's a nightmare. It is a full-on nightmare. And with that, I think I will be calling it for the night. So I want to again say thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure and for joining me in our future adventures, both in the videos and in the live streams. We're getting closer and closer to where things start to pick up in A Realm Reborn, so that's exciting. Hopefully, I don't think we'll obviously finish A Realm Reborn pre-Endwalker, but maybe we'll get closer. That's for sure. And then we'll get to watch a movie together, and by watch a movie I mean go through Praetorium. Okay. Good night, all. Good night, Brotherhood. Good night, Issa. Have a lovely day, weekend, and a great adventure in Final